The opening round of the 1994 TVR Tuscan Challenge takes place here at Mallory Park, the tight Leicestershire circuit of 1.35 miles in length. A very big crowd is on hand to watch the TVRs, one of BBM's 9 core championships, and its reigning champion Mark Hales, who lines up on the front row of the grid. Alongside him on the front row is the Cheshire driver Chris Maris with the Trinity Motors car, while on the inside of row 2 is 1992 champion Colin Blower. Alongside him is journalist Mark Hughes in the car entered by Nigel Mansell Sports Cars. On the outside of the 5th row of the grid is number 3 Steve Cole, the 1991 TVR champion. Complete with onboard camera, Cole will be looking to charge his way up through the field. With near blizzard conditions in practice, the grid has been decided by ballot. Ready then for the start of this 12-lap race, the opening round of the 1994 TVR Tuscan Challenge. Away they go. Good start by Mark Hales. Plenty of jockey for position further back. On board with Cole. Cars everywhere. Carnage at the start of the race. Steve Cole heads off towards the barrier. John Lyon's yellow car on the right-hand side of him. 26 there facing the wrong way. That's Simon Wayne. So we've got 3 cars nearly in the pit lane and 1 off on the grass as well. Chris Maris then in the lead from Mark Hales as they come into the S's for the first time. They turn right and then left. It's Colin Blower in 3rd place. Martin Kraft is 4th. Mark Hughes 5th. The circuit wet but drying as they come up to the hairpin for the first time. Hales on the outside of Maris. A very short lap, just 1.35 miles, and they're about to come through the Devil's Elbow up over the line, and they'll see those wrecked cars by the side of the road, and there's a real wreck. That's TVR chairman Peter Wheeler with a very badly damaged car limping round to the pits. Over the line, look at the debris on the road there as they go through. Also by the side of the road was number 40, the car of Martin Stewart. Everybody else though safely through. Colin Blower had a big look on the inside of Mark Hales there, got very crossed up indeed, hangs on to it but he's dropped back a little bit. Chris Maris then turning into the S's. In 2nd place Hales, 3rd Blower, they're dropping back a little bit. Red flags out, you can see the marshals waving the red flags there to stop the race. Cars littering the circuit, lots of debris over the road at the start line as well. So out come the red flags to stop the race. Chris Maris puts his hand up to slow the field down, but this is what happened. Look in the middle of the pack, you're about to see cars spin in all directions. Round goes Peter Wheeler in the silver car. Simon Wayne cuts across. John Lyon and Steve Cole go into the pits in avoidance, and those 2 cars are very badly damaged indeed. And now the marshals have got to try and separate them. John Lyon's yellow car is going nowhere, that's got a broken steering arm. Steve Cole's pink and blue car is pushed back to the grid. Somebody else in trouble is Mark Hughes. He has a punctured radiator, water pouring out of the bottom of that car, so he won't be taking part in the restart. So a much smaller field. Now there is Steve Cole, a very bemused Steve Cole, having had a very fraught opening lap. Ready then for the restart of this opening round of the championship. Away they go. Good start by Mark Hales, bad start by Chris Maris, and there's someone left on the line. That's Bob Sands, and it looks as though something's broken on that car. He's going no further. Down to Gerrard's then, for the first time. Mark Hales from Colin Blower from Chris Maris. That's the 1, 2, 3. 4th and 5th, John Kent in the yellow car. And there's Steve Cole rejoining from the pit lane. Up through the gears, onto the circuit, and now he's got to try and fight his way through the field. Coming into the S's for the first time, Hales versus Blower. Hales, who won the championship in 1993, Blower, who won it in 1992, and they've got Chris Maris there right on the tail. Splashing their way up to the hairpin for the first time. Blower having a look on the inside. Maris tries to go the long way right round the outside of him. That doesn't work. He's going to have to tuck into 3rd place, or is he? He's challenging on the inside for the Devil's Elbow. The pair of them dive into the left-hander side by side, but Blower just manages to force his way through on the outside and keep that 2nd place. On board now with Steve Cole. He's caught up with the rest of the field. He's now got to try and move his way through. He gets past Jean-Francois Ville, the ex-hill climber from France, and now Cole blasts his way down towards Gerrard's. Onto the step straight. Hales, Blower, Maris, Kent, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're pulling away from 5th place man Mark Goddard. Blower there looks on the inside of Hales as they come through the S's. The cars sporting little spoilers at the back of the cars for the first time in 1994. Here they come then, up to the hairpin. Once again, Blower sits on the inside of the circuit. Maris tries the long way round on the outside. He runs wide once again. He stays on the inside line for the Devil's Elbow. Is he going to be able to brave it out? No, he's not. Blower shuts the door, and as they battle for 2nd position, it allows Mark Hales to pull away up front. Over the line then. Mark Hales, the reigning champion, the bearded journalist, in the lead from Colin Blower, who's been racing TVRs and Porsches for many, many years. In 3rd place, the vastly experienced Chris Maris, and he's being caught now by John Kent, and the leaders are closing right up, look. Onto the straight. Mark Hales keeps the car in the middle of the road, and Maris is in trouble. Chris Maris, the wheels coming off the car. He's most definitely out of the race. Something must have broken, perhaps the stub axle's gone, but Chris Maris is out of the race for sure. Up to the hairpin then, we have a new race leader, it's Colin Blower, who's found a way past Mark Hales. John Kent has latched onto the tail of the leading pair, as has Mark Goddard onto the tail of Kent. The top four then, nose to tail, as they come through the Devil's Elbow, and then up across the start and finish line. Blower, then Hales, then Kent, then single-seater ace Mark Goddard, and this is a very exciting opener to the TVR Tuscan Championship season. Turning through Gerrards then, Colin Blower now trying to pull away from Mark Hales, who will not be happy about second position. He'll want to try and get that lead back if at all possible. Here they come, along step straight. John Kent there in third place, trying to close up to Mark Hales, trying to wrest second place away from him. Into the S's they come. Now Blower with a good 3 or 4 cars length now between himself and second place man Mark Hales can try and consolidate that lead, and Steve Cole is still charging up through the field. Out of Gerrards now, along the step straight, one more car ahead of him, noses up alongside, looks for a way past. Into the S's, Steve Cole then heading further up through the field in Fab 1. Meantime, the leaders are coming down into Gerrards, Blower and Hales, and they're closing up once again. Vastly experienced Mark Hales putting in a mid-race burst now to try and latch back onto the tail of the race leader Colin Blower, and it's working. One slower car ahead, that's Mick Schofield, they've got a lap. Blower tries the inside line, Hales tries the outside. Now are they going to fall foul of the back marker? Schofield looks in his mirrors, pulls well to the side of the circuit, allows them through. Out of the S's, now the run up towards Shaw's hairpin. The car of Blower gets a little bit sideways on the wet part of the circuit. Hales challenges on the outside. They swing through the second gear hairpin, back on the power, accelerating now towards the Devil's Elbow, but still Colin Blower, by dint of making his car as wide as possible, is hanging onto the lead. Hales looks on the inside though, they come through the Devil's Elbow and side by side over the line. Third is still Kent, and here is Martin Kraft battling with Steve Cole. They are now fourth and fifth. Kraft misses a gear coming out of the elbow. Steve Cole surges up alongside him, and having started from the pit lane, Steve Cole is now fourth. For the final time, down the step straight come the leaders. The last time into the S's, Colin Blower versus Mark Hales. A really cracking start to the season, but who's going to win it? 2 back markers ahead of them. Up to the hairpin they come. The first one they've got to try and find a way past is John McQuilkin, and Martin Stewart's in there as well. Into the hairpin. Hales trying to find a way past Blower. He runs out wide, nearly clips McQuilkin there. He's had to back off, and that allows Colin Blower a little bit more breathing space as they come up to the line, and Colin Blower, the local man from Hinckley in Leicester, takes victory in this, the opening round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge of 1994. Mark Hales finishes second and takes a new lap record at over 102 miles an hour. John Kent finishes third, while Cole, Crass and Cooper finish the top 6. Welcome back to International Motorsports as we head now to Oulton Park for the second round of the 1994 TVR Tuscan Challenge. Colin Blower and local man Chris Maris on the front row as we get ready for the start. Looking back then from Maris's car, looking forward from Bob Sands' machine. Sands lines up on the third row of the grid. It's going to be a 12-lap race. The lights go green. It's action at Oulton. On board with Sands, trying to fight his way through the traffic, and it's Colin Blower who leads as they go into Old Hall for the first time, with Chris Maris on the outside of him. 24 goes through, John Lyon on the outside of TVR chairman Peter Wheeler. Down to Cascades for the first time. It's Blower first, Maris second, Steve Cole third. Someone's off. Wow, into the field goes Martin Kraft. Drama at Cascades on lap 1. Martin Kraft goes off into the field, and Colin Blower and Chris Maris lead at Island Bend. They're side by side. On board now with Mark Hales, the reigning champion. Someone locks up ahead there. Could have been Mark Goddard, but they swing through Shuttle's corner for the first time, and now they accelerate towards Fulston's. Sands and Hales, nose to tail. Zap, straight past Mark Goddard, the former single-seater driver, and now into Fulston's comes Bob Sands. Looking back though from the race leader's car, Chris Maris, the driver, over hilltop. Now he dives down to Knickerbrook. Steve Cole there, looking for a way past Blower. He tries the inside. Now he tucks back in. Colin Blower being very defensive indeed. In fourth is Sands, fifth Hales, sixth is John Lyon, and down to seventh is Mark Goddard. Up Clay Hill comes the race leader, Chris Maris, a former instructor here at Oulton Park. He knows his way round extremely well. Through Druids, double apex right-hander, a very awkward corner to get right. Mark Hughes there in the red car, challenging on the inside. And look at Blower, he's closing right up to the tail of Maris. Here they come, down to Lodge. Chris Maris on the inside, Colin Blower on the outside, side by side, right the way through Lodge. Up Dear Leet, looking back again from Maris's car. Blower on the inside at Dear Leet. He still can't quite get past. Steve Cole's there in third place. Blower's car virtually hidden by the leader, Chris Maris, as they went down into Old Hall. Bob Sands, he's fourth, and he's closing on the top three. Yellow flag out there at Cascades. Steve Cole's seen it. Now you need both hands to get through Cascades itself. Blower goes back through on the inside. Great racing here at Oulton Park. And there's John Lyon, number 24, in 6th place. Out of Cascades, along Lakeside Straight into Island Bend. The top three closing up on one another once again. And here's Bob Sands in 4th place. Down through the gears, into Shell. In comes the power, he accelerates away from Shell, now towards Fulston's. He's got Mark Hales, the reigning champion, very close indeed behind him. Into Fulston's now, left, then right, then left again. Maris, Blower, Cole, the top three, virtually nose to tail now as they come over hilltop. Now remember, a lap ago, Cole challenged on the inside of Blower. He's doing it again here, down to Knickerbrook. They touch, Cole's on the grass, he's locked up. Crunch into the side of Chris Maris. He spins, Blower goes up the escape road, Cole's on the grass, and this man, Bob Sands, leads now up Clay Hill, under the bridge. What an amazing race. Cars rejoin, well, two of them do. Colin Blower stranded on the escape road with a very damaged car. Bob Sands leads, Mark Hales is now second, up into third is John Lyon, and that really has now turned the race upside down. Coming down to Lodge, Bob Sands in the lead. Locks up though, Mark Hales, the reigning champion, still there in second place. Third, John Lyon in the yellow Tuscan, out of Lodge, up Deer Leap. A replay from Bob Sands' car, you can see the smoke pouring off the tyres of those ahead who've locked up. They annihilate one another. Sands goes through into the lead. Now look at Cole on the inside, he makes contact with Blower, that knocks Steve Cole's car onto the grass, he's all locked up, he's got nowhere to go. Maris turns in and zonk, they all meet in the middle. 3 into 1, doesn't go. Blower is out of the race. Chris Maris drops right to the tail end of the field and Steve Cole continues. A replay from Maris's car. You can see Cole and Blower making contact and there's the impact. Round goes Chris Maris, the innocent victim of all of that. He led, he turned in and he got a big clout in the side. Now here are the leaders, nose to tail, Bob Sands versus Mark Hales. One slower car ahead of them to be lapped as they turn through Fulston's. That's John Kent out of the race. Now Kent started 23rd on the grid, he needed a new engine after practice. He got as high as 4th. But now on lap 7, he is out. So bitter luck indeed for John Kent. But the leaders now pulling away all the time from the rest of the field, despite the fact they're together. Sands and Hales, here they come, down into Lodge Corner. Mark Hales, reigning champion, waiting perhaps for Sands to make a mistake. Certainly it doesn't look as though he's going to find a way past him any other way. Out of Lodge, up Deer Leap, and then they flash past the pits. Motoring journalist Mark Hales starting to close a little bit as they come onto the braking area. Sands gets it sideways, Sands spins. Round goes Bob Sands on the grass, whoops, he's off again. These are very powerful cars, they're difficult to control at the best of times, and when you're skidding off on the grass, it makes the job even harder. So Bob Sands rejoins in second place. We're on board though with Chris Maris, he's had to pit for a new tyre. This is Knickerbrook, got it sideways, whoops, he's off again. Lots of tar smoke as he tries to rejoin. Chris Maris returns to the circuit, despite using a bit of the grass, and sets off again. And the tar smoke is still settling at Knickerbrook. A replay of Bob Sands' spin into Old Hall, hard on the brakes, round goes the back of the car, and he spins off onto the grass. He's still second, but Mark Hughes is right behind him. He's challenging at Old Hall. Through on the inside goes Mark Hughes, but he's lost it. Round he goes. Bob Sands just misses him. That was very close indeed. Untroubled by all these dramas, Mark Hales comes into Lodge Corner for the final time. He really has profited from the mistakes of others, but perhaps that's what it's all about. Here he comes, out of Deer Leap, the checkered flag is at the ready. Mark Hales wins round 2 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge here at Oulton Park. Second and third, nose to tail as they come into Lodge. It's Bob Sands with Graham Nash, the Coventry driver, right on his tail. Nash, the former drag bike racer, is looking for second as they come up Deer Leap. Bob Sands in the blue car, Nash in the white and red one. Here they come, up to the flag, and Bob Sands just takes second from Graham Nash. But victory goes to Mark Hales, a man who's definitely a TVR fan. Well, staying here at Castle Combe, we're ready now for the third round of this year's TVR Tuscan Challenge, with series returnee Ian Flux there on pole position. Flux out for the first time this year with reigning champion Mark Hales in a newly re-liveried car on the middle of the front row. And completing row 1 of the grid is the Hinckley garage owner Colin Blower. Remember, he won the opening round at Mallory and then crashed out at the second race at Oulton Park, so he is eager to do well here. As we get ready for the start of this 12-lap race here at Castle Combe, we're on board with John Kent as the lights flash to green and away they go. heading up towards Quarry for the first time. John Kent trying to work his way through the field after a very lowly grid position by his standards. But up front it's Mark Hales who leads, but only just from Colin Blower. Turning through Quarry then for the first time, this enormous field all pouring through, and look at the way Kent is fighting away behind the wheel. He's lost a place, he's lost 2 places. Kent, who retired at Oulton Park, desperately trying to work his way through to the lead here, and it's Hales from Blower, first and second. Ian Flux is third, and in fourth position is John Lyon. Number 2 goes through, Mark Goddard, the ex-single-seater champion. Hales then trying to break away up front, but Colin Blower has his mirrors absolutely full of third place man Ian Flux. Bob Sands, number 7, runs a little bit wide. 55, the journalist Mark Hughes goes through ahead of Chris Maris. Down towards camp. Hales in the lead, Blower there second, and in third is Ian Flux. These 3 very competent drivers running nose to tail. We're on board with John Kent. Look at the way he soars away behind the wheel. A wave to acknowledge that he got through there. Somehow, across the line he goes. Now, there are the leaders. John Lyon dropping back by a length or so in fourth place, and Colin Blower looks on the inside to try and get past Hales. He couldn't do it. Flux has a look on the outside and then tucks back in as they come through the corner. Ian Flux, really the mover in this little pack now. He's right there behind Blower, and Blower once again challenges as they come up toward Old Paddock. Blower trying to get past Hales. Very bumpy circuit, Castle Combe. You can see in particular Colin Blower's car bouncing around. Flux right with him as this man, Mark Hales, continues to lead. Look back, Blower still second, Flux still third, and John Lyon well clear of everybody else, but not quite able to keep up on pace with Ian Flux at the moment. They're heading down once again towards camp. This could be Flux's chance. Look at him go for it on the inside, but no, he has to tuck back in. The Team Central TVR swings through in third place, and Colin Blower driving very defensively to keep Flux at bay. Hales is in trouble. Mark Hales going off. Mark Hales out of the race. He clangs into the barrier. Well, disaster for Mark Hales, a very comfortable leader, and he pulls off out of the race. So that means that Colin Blower is in the lead. In second now is Ian Flux, and a dejected Mark Hales walks away. Something broken at the front of the car, and he is out. The 2 leaders, though, pressing on all the time with Blower. Headlights ablaze now, just ahead of Ian Flux. He tries on the inside, and through he goes. Into the lead goes Ian Flux, but Colin Blower fights back. The 2 of them side by side all the way around the corner, and Colin Blower goes back into the lead. Down the fast straight then, they're heading towards Camp Corner, and Blower just manages to go through. They lap Nick Harrison there, who falls to one side. The order, Blower, Flux and Lyon. Coming across the line, a brief look at the pit signals, and Blower now trying to stay in the middle of the road and deny Ian Flux any chance of going round him on the outside or the inside. Up towards Quarry once again. Again Flux tries the outside, a wide entrance, hoping for a tight exit. Very close indeed, right behind Blower, and look at the way that Colin has to defend now, hugging the inside as they come up the straight towards Old Paddock. This is a fantastic race. Blower leads, but only just. Ian Flux has led for a corner, and he wants to lead for a good deal more. Blower's got it sideways, round he goes. Ian Flux stood on everything to avoid him. They may have made contact, but I think Blower did that all on his own. He spins out of the lead. Flux now is the new race leader, but because he had to brake, John Lyon has got a good deal closer to him. This is cracking stuff here at Castle Combe. Ian Flux is the race leader, John Lyon is second, and Colin Blower is third. Far from happy. They're coming into camp then for the final time. Flux versus Lyon, the checkered flag is at the ready, and Ian Flux crosses the line to win the third round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge. He is delighted with that. John Lyon finishes just 0.3 of a second behind him. Colin Blower comes across the line in third place, with Mark Goddard finishing fourth. A delighted Flux then wins here, his first outing of the season, and this is how it all happened. Into Old Paddock, Blower's car bouncing around, kept sideways. Look at Flux brake. Blower just spins out of his way, so Ian Flux takes over the lead, and Colin Blower came home to finish in third place. He wasn't the only man to spin, as we look at Martin Cross trying to avoid a spinning Peter Wheeler, who recorded his third non-finish of the year. So Ian Flux, the winner then, 0.3 of a second ahead of John Lyon, with Colin Blower third. Mark Goddard was fourth ahead of John Kent and Chris Maris, and Mark Hales leads the championship by 4 points from Blower. First this week, 2 Brands Hatch in Kent for round 4 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge, a series that is, as ever, proving to be very exciting indeed. Wins so far have gone to Mark Hales, Ian Flux and Colin Blower, and those 3 drivers are expected to be the class of the field here on the full Grand Prix circuit. Ian Flux it is who lines up on pole position with the Team Central Tuscan. The man who won the most recent race at Castle Combe has Mark Hales, the reigning champion, alongside him on row 1. And Hales, remember, won round 2 of the series at Oulton Park in April. On the second row of the grid is Anthony Reid, out in a Tuscan for the first time. He's in number 6, the former Tim Harvey car, with Colin Blower lining up alongside him, Blower who won at Mallory. We're on board with the Cheshire driver Chris Marris as we wait for the green lights to come on. The engine notes rise and away they go. A very good start from pole position man Ian Flux, with Mark Hales now being out-dragged by both Colin Blower and Anthony Reid as they go down to paddock for the first time. Simon Wayne's newly reliveried car goes around the outside of journalist Mark Hughes, and we're on board now with Chris Marris chasing after John Kent as Anthony Reid leads at Druids. It's Ian Flux in second place, third and fourth are side by side, Mark Hales and Ian Flux. On board again with Marris as he comes through Graham Hill Bend, looking for a way past John Kent, who drifts a little bit wider than Marris there, but then comes across and defends that 5th place as they head into Surtees. Through the left-hander then, it's Reid from Flux, first and second. On board with Chris Marris, dropping back a length or 2 from John Kent as they go onto the Grand Prix loop of the circuit. And here come the leaders. Anthony Reid's black Tuscan in the lead, with Ian Flux looking for a way past him. It's Mark Hales third, Colin Blower fourth ahead of Kent and Marris, but Anthony Reid out in a Tuscan for the first time, working very hard indeed now to try and keep Ian Flux behind him. The 2 leaders then nose to tail as they come up to Dingle Dell. We're on board with Chris Marris now up behind Colin Blower, fighting his way through Dingle Dell. Marris ahead of Kent, that's pushed him down to 6th place, and John Kent under pressure from Mark Goddard, who is 7th. Out of Stirling's then, the drop down to Clearways and then Clark Curve, and Anthony Reid is going to lead at the end of the lap, but only just because Ian Flux is right there behind him, looking for a way past then as they come across the line. Flux tries the outside, the 2 cars very nearly touching there as all this power comes in. Down towards paddock they go, but Flux is on the wrong line, and that means that Anthony Reid can maintain that advantage. Through paddock, Reid hugs the inside line, making sure that Flux can't find a way up alongside as they head to Druids. Mark Hales and Colin Blower right on the tail of Ian Flux now, so it's a good 4-way fight for the lead, although Colin Blower very determined to find a way past Hales. Out of Graham Hill Bend, a long bottom straight, and Ian Flux still menacing the race leader Anthony Reid as they come now onto the Grand Prix loop once again. TVR chairman Peter Wheeler coming into Graham Hill Bend, he's lost it, he spins, round he goes, off in avoidance there goes number 40 Martin Stewart. Stewart has a big moment all over the grass, but for the 4th race in succession, Peter Wheeler is out. Ian Flux takes over the lead round the outside of Anthony Reid as they dive down the hill. So the Castle Combe winner, Ian Flux, heads Anthony Reid, with Hales and Blower still 3rd and 4th and in touch. A disconsolate Peter Wheeler sits in his Tuscan out of the race, not a happy man. Ian Flux leads, but look at this for 2nd place. Mark Hales on the inside of Anthony Reid, and through goes the reigning champion, or does he? Because Reid is still fighting on the outside as they get to paddock. Hales has the better line, he's just a little bit wider though than Reid there, who tries to fight back on the inside as they come up the hill to Druids. Hales cuts across though, his flame-spitting Tuscan in 2nd place, hanging on to that position now, as into the pits heads Nick Cresswell. It hasn't been a happy season for him so far, and Cresswell once again a retirement. Flux from Hales then, 1st and 2nd, and you can see how the gap between them is coming right down. Mark Hales alongside now as they head to Westfield. Is he going to go through? Yes, he is. Mark Hales takes over the lead, and that pushes Ian Flux down to 2nd place. Still 3rd is Anthony Reid, but only just because it's Colin Blower now right behind him, and Blower looking for a way past. This is Stirling's. Flux runs wide off the circuit, and so too does Anthony Reid. Blower backs off to avoid hitting him, but that was a big moment for all of them, and it's allowed Mark Hales to pull away by a length or so as he comes through Clark Curve. 2nd is still Flux, and a big moment there from Colin Blower. The car gets very sideways as he carries on now. Somebody else is off. Wow, straight into the tyre barrier. That's Mark Hughes, the journalist who is very much out of the race in the Nigel Mansell Sports Cars entry. Hughes not very happy about that. He's gone off in a big way, and now with the car perched on top of the tyres, he's got to work out how to get out of the car. The marshals on the scene very quickly as they try to extricate the driver. Mark Hughes is okay, the car isn't. On board then with Chris Marris. Big moment coming out of Graham Hill Bend, he manages to control it. Maris carries on now. He's got Anthony Reid right behind him, and Reid going through on the inside. Anthony Reid, who's had a moment and dropped back, fights through, and Chris Maris there ran very wide. Through past both him and Reid has come Mark Goddard and also John Kent. It's all happening here at Brands Hatch as Mark Hales comes through Stirling's with Ian Flux right behind him in second place, and Flux sliding the car still. Down into Clark Curve comes Mark Hales. He's on target for his second victory of 1994. There's Mark Goddard in fourth place. Fifth is John Kent. In sixth is Anthony Reid, and he's off again. Reid goes off onto the grass, gets it back on. But this is becoming a very hectic race for Anthony Reid as Mark Hales turns through Surtees for the final time. Ian Flux in second place, and on this last lap, Flux is really charging now to try and catch up with the leader once again. On board with Chris Maris. You can see the drama ahead of him as Anthony Reid gets sideways, and Maris has lost it. Chris Maris spins, he's facing the wrong way, hasn't hit anything, so he's okay to carry on. Gets back in the race with a big slide, but that has dropped Chris Maris even further away from the top six as Mark Hales comes through to take the checkered flag and win for the second time this season, with Ian Flux finishing a second and a half behind him in second place. Colin Blower finishes in third ahead of Mark Goddard, with John Kent fifth and Anthony Reid out in a Tuscan for the first time, rounding out the top six. With 2 wins, Hales heads the championship as the series now heads to Thruxton. First this week though, to Thruxton in Hampshire for the 5th round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge. It's Ian Flux lining up on pole position, the man that won at Castle Combe earlier in the season. Alongside Flux on the front row is Chris Maris. He's determined to take victory here today, having led at Oulton Park and having been very unlucky on a number of occasions this season. The ever-cheerful Cheshire driver up then on the outside of row 1 of the grid. Row 2 sees Colin Blower lining up alongside Mark Goddard in his final TVR race before moving off to oversee a team in Asia. Row 3, John Kent lining up alongside Mark Newman. Row 4, Perry McCarthy, the ex-Formula 1 driver, and the vastly experienced Jerry Marshall, while completing the top 10 are Bob Sands and Coventry driver Graham Nash, the ex-drag bike manufacturer. Ready for the start of this 11-lap race, looking back from Ian Flux's car. The lights go green, it's blast off, a tremendous getaway by Chris Maris there from the outside of the front row of the grid. Ian Flux not quite away as quickly as Colin Blower, who moves through on the inside there, up into second position, and looking back from Flux's car there at Mark Goddard. Just touching the grass there on the inside of the road was Jerry Marshall as they come into the complex. Marshall on the outside there of Mark Goddard, swinging through the complex for the first time. Chris Maris it is in the lead, Colin Blower there in second position. The field all comes streaming through. Martin Stewart there going through at number 40. Mark Hales having started at the back of the grid after problems in practice trying to work his way up through the field. Ignition problems forced him to start 24th and last on the grid, and the man who has already won twice this year, once at Oulton and once at Brands, is flying through the field. There he goes in the red Pro-Tape Tuscan up on the inside of Martin Stewart, and the 3 leaders are absolutely together, and so too are 4th and 5th side by side. Jerry Marshall there trying to go past Mark Goddard as they come up to the chicane for the first time, but it's Chris Maris in the lead there. Colin Blower going through into second place, Ian Flux is third. They all stand on the brakes and come funneling into the chicane. The black car of Perry McCarthy going through. Mark Hales there ahead of Martin Cross up behind Bob Sands. Whoops, almost touching the back of Sands' car. Hales backed off there to avoid making contact. He controls it and they carry on. There goes John Kent. You can see new for 1994 as we look back from Ian Flux's car. The added front and rear aerodynamic aids just to give the cars a little bit more downforce, but they're still very exciting to watch. Mark Goddard there going through on the inside of Jerry Marshall. Marshall fighting back though as they come through the complex, and Colin Blower got all very sideways there. Mark Goddard up into 4th position now, chasing after Flux. Looking back from Ian Flux's car, the Team Central TVR Tuscan there in 3rd position. Mark Goddard 4th. You can see how close Flux is there to Blower, and Blower going through on the inside of Chris Maris. Maris ran a bit wide there, leaves the door wide open for Colin Blower to challenge. Ian Flux trying to follow him through. Maris running wide through that long right-hander. He slips from 1st to 3rd. It's Blower, it's Flux, it's Maris. 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Mark Goddard in 4th position as they come down to the chicane there to complete the lap. Goddard looking for a way past Maris, who's looking for a way past Flux, who's looking to try and stay in touch with Blower. And Blower's got it sideways. Colin Blower gets it all wrong there. He loses the lead. He loses 2nd place. He sets off again in 3rd, but with the door wide open and the car not yet up to racing speed, he's lost 3rd place as well to Mark Goddard, and John Kent's there in 5th and challenging. All action then here at Thruxton. Colin Blower gets it all wrong at the chicane and slips from first to fourth. Mark Goddard up now into third position, looking for a way past Chris Maris, but Blower wants to find third place away from Goddard. Now all that battling going on behind Ian Flux has allowed the new race leader to pull away. Now that's Martin Cross, who's had troubles there at the chicane. He rejoins all over the curbs, but he does rejoin and sets off back into the race. Here's the leader, Ian Flux, the Motoring News track tester, pulling clear of second place man Chris Maris. He's under pressure from the third place man Mark Goddard. Colin Blower right there behind him in fourth place, and Blower looking for a way around the outside as they come to the chicane. It's not really the best place to try, but he's having a good go nonetheless, and he goes round on the outside. Is he going to get third? He is. What an amazing bit of driving from Colin Blower. From fourth to third round the outside. He has a tighter exit there from the chicane, denying Goddard a chance to come back at him on the inside. So Blower is now up into third position as they head to the complex. Down to fourth goes Mark Goddard. Fifth behind them now is John Kent, and up to sixth from 24th on the grid is Mark Hales, and that really is progress. There is Hales turning through the complex, charging on in pursuit of the top five. Can he get any higher up the order? Well, here's Ian Flux pulling well clear of the battle for second position. Flux has set the fastest lap at over 104 miles an hour, and Colin Blower has slowed right down. Colin Blower is in trouble. You can see there a hand in the air. He's in trouble. He's coasting round to the pits. You can also see as Mark Hales goes past him that the reigning champion Hales is closing all the time on John Kent, looking for a way around the outside. Mark Hales driving brilliantly here today as Ian Flux now comes down to the chicane. Goes down through the gears. He sets the car up. The vastly experienced Flux then clear of Chris Maris in second position. Mark Goddard there in third, about to lap John Ravenscroft with the worked TVR. They accelerate now out of the chicane. Up through the gears. Goddard goes over the line. He's now pressing on in pursuit of Chris Maris, who had a big spin at Brands Hatch. He had a big spin at Alton Park when he was punted out of the lead. And he's losing it again at Thruxton. Maris spins right the way around the full 360 degrees, but he carries on. Incredible. Guns the engine, going up to the complex. Whoops. Jerry Marshall hits John Kent. They avoid Chris Maris, but hit each other. Jerry Marshall there around the outside of Chris Maris clips the side of John Kent. They both spin. They both look a bit bemused by it all. Everybody else closes up to them. What an incredible race this is. Out of the complex, John Kent spins it away. John Kent loses the Norweb back Tuscan. He's facing now in the right direction, but maybe the car was damaged in that collision with Jerry Marshall. Now, let's look at it again. That smoke is Chris Maris rejoining. This is John Kent, and that plonk into the side was Jerry Marshall's car. It knocks John Kent sideways. Chris Maris continues there, unaffected by all this, and Kent and Marshall sort themselves out and set off, with Jerry Marshall just going ahead of Kent, who tries to brave it out around the outside of the complex. Marshall gets sideways. Kent now comes into the second part, loses the back end, round it goes. It spins through the full 360 degrees, and it drops him right down the order. Ian Flux then, on target for his second win of the season. He won at Castle Combe, and it looks as though he's going to win here at Thruxton as well. Heading down into the chicane, Ian Flux then, who has made it look relatively easy, having found his way into the lead, turns right, then left, and then right. Ian Flux charges out of the chicane. The checkered flag is at the ready. A commanding victory by over 7 seconds. Ian Flux wins then here at Thruxton in the 5th round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge. A fine second for Mark Goddard on his swan-song Tuscan outing. Third is Mark Hales from 24th on the grid, while Chris Maris, Graham Nash and Bob Sands complete the top 6 after a cracking race here in Hampshire. The top 3 on the podium. Victory to Ian Flux in the centre, with Mark Goddard and the bearded Mark Hales completing the top 3. Hales still leads the championship, but Flux is closing. For the TVR Tuscan Challenge, there's a big surprise for the regulars. Chris Hodgetts, who's been racing this year in the Dunlop Rover Turbo Cup and who is a former Tuscan champion, is back having a one-off outing in the TVR Centre Yellow Tuscan. He lines up on the front row of the grid alongside Colin Blower, and Hodgetts is a man they all have to beat. Ian Flux, who had a disastrous qualification race, sits at the tail end of the 19-strong field. He has got to work his way through as we wait for the 15-lap race to get underway. It does so now. The green lights come on, and away they go, with Hodgetts getting a very good start. He's on the inside of Colin Blower. Can he find a way past? No, he can't. Blower it is who leads then from Hodgetts as they go into Tarzan for the first time, with John Kent in third. Nick Cresswell, number 33, going around the outside there of Martin Cross, as Blower, Hodgetts and Kent First, second and third make their way up to the left-hander. Mark Hales running very wide indeed with the red Pro-Tape car, and a challenge made on the inside there by 35 Graham Nash. Flux now trying to work his way up through the field as John McQuilkin rounds out the field at the moment. Blower and Hodgetts trying to break away already from John Kent, who is there in third place. It's Chris Maris in fourth, the Cheshire driver doing very well indeed here at Zandvoort. Now what can Hodgetts do about Blower? Former champions both. 1992 champion Blower, 1990 champion Hodgetts, and they are on their way now up towards the long right-hander of Boss Wheat. Turning through, accelerating then, up ready to cross the line. It's still Blower in the lead. Hodgetts running very wide indeed there, raising the dust on the outside of the circuit. And Blower now hugging the inside line, looking at the pit boards as they come across the start and finish straight. And now down into Tarzan with Hodgetts trying to go around on the outside. There in third place is John Kent, the Preston Rest Home owner. And Hodgetts challenging Blower, the Hinckley Garage owner, for the lead. Kent dropping back a little bit, but he's safe for the time being in third. And Hodgetts is giving Blower a really tough time now. Nose to tail, Hodgetts looking on the inside, the door is closed. Third Kent, fourth is still Chris Maris, fifth is championship leader Mark Hales, sixth there Gavin Cooper, seventh is Graham Nash, and number eight Peter Wheeler, TVR's chairman, yet to finish in a round of the championship this year. Two leaders, nose to tail again, with Hodgetts running wide coming out of Boss Wheat, but you can see the way that they are pulling away from Kent in third, who in turn is pulling well clear of Chris Maris there in fourth. The two leaders making their way through Tarzan as the rest of this very full field comes pouring its way out of Boss Wheat. And there on the right hand side of the screen is Ian Flux trying to dive up alongside him, going past Gavin Cooper, which he does successfully, and also through on the inside of Graham Nash. Ian Flux really driving splendidly here in Holland. The Team Central TVR now working its way up through the field. Flux right on the limit there, sideways as he throws it through. Chris Hodgetts now in the lead of the race. Colin Blower down to second. Chris Hodgetts, the man who leads this year's Rover Turbo Championship, slotting in Tuscan appointments when his calendar will permit. Blower there in second place. John Kent in third, having a disappointing start to his season, but things do look as though they're improving now as Blower tries to find a way past Hodgetts as here they come out of the Boss Wheat, over the line, out go the pit boards. Blower's team urging him on. He tries a wide approach to Tarzan through the right-hand hairpin now. In comes the power. These very evenly matched 4.5 litre Tuscans, the rear-wheel drive cars, making their way down to the tight left, with Blower all the time giving Hodgetts a tough time. Hodgetts, though, covers the inside line. No way for Blower to go past him there. Now they make their way up the hill, as here is Mark Hales. He is now up into third place. Chris Maris is fourth. Go through, he says to Ian Flux. He does so, and Flux even finds time for a little wave to say thank you to Chris Maris. Very gentlemanly stuff, TVR Tuscan Racing. But Chris Hodgetts is now starting to break away from Colin Blower. Race leader Chris Hodgetts working his way through the newer section of Zandvoort, the former home of the Dutch Grand Prix that's been tightened and slowed down in recent seasons, and Blower is on his way now to the Boss Wheat. Hodgetts, though, ahead of him, and the former Tuscan champion, double British Touring Car Series winner Chris Hodgetts is on his way, it seems, for a victory. Blower is now closing up. Remember how we saw Colin Blower drop back? Well, maybe he was just conserving the car, because now he's in there fighting once again. He tries the outside of Hodgetts as they go to the hairpin, runs out of road though, that forces him up on the curb and onto the grass, so he drops back once more. Hodgetts looking increasingly safe in the lead. Colin Blower going through there in second place. Down to Tarzan comes number 33, Nick Cresswell, as a challenge made on the inside there by Peter Wheeler on Gavin Cooper very nearly works. Chris Maris just ahead of the pair of them. He's been dropping back steadily as this race has worn on. Cooper looking for a way past Maris. He's got the inside line, but Chris Maris is not letting him go through, and Peter Wheeler is right up behind them both now. Some very good racing here, entertaining the Dutch spectators. Now John Kent going into the hairpin in third is being caught by new fourth baseman Ian Flux. Flux, who started 19th on the grid, remember, now charging up through the field. Championship leader Mark Hales going through fifth, and there is Cresswell, then Maris, and still the Cooper and Wheeler battle continues. A sideways Hodgetts making his way round now with Colin Blower chasing after him, but it rather looked as though Chris Hodgetts is going to return to TVR Tuscan Racing in fine style. Out comes the checkered flag, and Hodgetts wins at Zandvoort. Colin Blower comes across the line in second place. John Kent on target for third, being caught all the time by Ian Flux. The flag waves to the back markers, and there in the background are Kent and now Flux. It looks as though John Kent will just hang on to that third place, but Ian Flux, up from 19th on the grid, takes fourth. A look at the top six then, with Hodgetts and Blower and Kent the top three, Flux finishing fourth ahead of Mark Hales, with Nick Cresswell in sixth. In the championship, 16 points now separate leader Hales from second place man Ian Flux, with Colin Blower third ahead of John Kent, who is fourth. The TVR Tuscan Challenge here at Donington, the seventh round of a very exciting series. Chris Hodgetts on pole position, Ian Flux alongside him, the lights go green and it's blast off. The run down towards Redgate Corner, a man to watch, Steve Cole charging through from the back of the grid. He only had fourth gear in practice and he's charging as they go into the corner. 21 there, Martin Kraus going on the outside of John Kent, he's off onto the grass. Off goes Martin Kraus, he should be able to rejoin though. Chris Hodgetts in the lead, diving down the hill towards the Old Happy for the first time, with Ian Flux right behind him in second place. Colin Blower is third, Mark Hales fourth, fifth is Chris Maris, and the rest of the field all battling amongst themselves. On their way now, up towards McLean, Hodgetts and Flux, first and second, Colin Blower in third under great pressure from reigning champion Mark Hales. This is Coppis for the first time. Mark Hales just managing to go through into third position now ahead of Colin Blower. Nick Cresswell moving up on the inside there of Gavin Cooper, and Mark Newman going through on old Nigel Mansell tyres. Hard on the brakes, down through the gears, into the S's. Hodgetts clobbering the curbs, so too Ian Flux. 4.5 litre V8 Tuscans really sounding superb around Donington, and the two leaders breaking away now. Ian Flux right up behind Chris Hodgetts. A challenge made there by John Kent as they come down to the Melbourne hairpin, but looking back now from Hodgetts' car. Running wide over the curbs, completing lap 1 of the 10. Chris Hodgetts leads here at Donington. The rest of the field all pouring through. A big spin there, off goes number 35, that's Nick Harrison. Onto the grass, the car pirouetting once again as he tries to rejoin. He does so, but that's dropped him right to the tail of the field. Now this is Chris Hodgetts revving the engine. He's got problems, he's got major problems, he's losing the lead. Ian Flux goes past him, but it sounds to me as though Hodgetts must have some sort of a gearbox problem. You can hear him fishing for gears. Now he's found them again, and he's blasting out of the old hairpin. He's right on the tail of Flux, looking to try and get the lead back once again. So whatever the problem was with Hodgetts' car, it's now cured itself. He did sound though suspiciously like a gearbox problem. He's alongside, no he's not! Locking up there, Hodgetts just unable to go through past Flux, who shuts the door very vigorously. This is stirring stuff from the TVR Tuscans. It's Ian Flux leading, it's Chris Hodgetts in second. Hodgetts, winner of the championship in 1990, looking for a way past Ian Flux. He's going to go through under braking, or is he? They're side by side, and through goes Hodgetts into the lead. Over the curbs, back into the lead, Chris Hodgetts, and that was a very slow gear change. Ian Flux looking for a way past on the outside as they come into the Melbourne hairpin. Bang! Hodgetts is in trouble once again. He ran wide, he was slow, and Ian Flux comes past him once again, and Hodgetts surely must be fishing for gears. We heard the way he struggled out of the Melbourne hairpin in a low gear, so maybe he's lost second, and having trouble through the old hairpin, maybe fourth has gone as well. Well, there, out of the race, is Bob Sands. He is certainly having trouble. Ian Flux leads. He's got problems of his own, though. Those problems are Chris Hodgetts right up behind him. Hodgetts then in trouble with the lack of second and fourth gears. That means that he's revving the engine in third extremely hard indeed, and here they come, nose to tail, down through the Craner curves. Hodgetts on the limit, little puff of smoke there from the back of the car, looking for a way through on the inside of Flux. No chance, the door is closed. Up onto the curbs goes Hodgetts, almost up alongside, giving Ian Flux a very tough time, leaping over the curbs there, Chris Hodgetts. Flames spitting out of the exhaust of Ian Flux's car, as now they run up the hill towards Coppis Corner. Hodgetts challenges on the inside, side by side, he's going through! Chris Hodgetts goes back into the lead. A fantastic race here at Donington as Ian Flux challenges on the inside, he's going to go through again. Incredible! They're side by side, out of Coppis. Hodgetts on the inside, Flux on the outside as they head to the S's. Who is going to give way? Well, surely Chris Hodgetts will keep the lead now. Yes, he does. He has the inside line for the S's and he manages to go through all the time. Mark Hales closing on them in third place, and the red Pro-Tape Tuscaners down now into the Melbourne hairpin. The leaders go, and round the outside of Martin Stewart goes Gavin Cooper. Cooper running a little bit wide as down towards the S's he goes in his pursuit of Martin Stewart, known as the Moose, and the Moose gets it sideways. Whoops, there's contact as Gavin Cooper with nowhere to go rammed him. A lot of damage then to Cooper's car. Chris Marriott spinning all the way round. Arm in the air. Whoops, that's Steve Cole just avoiding him. And Chris Marriott parked in the wrong place. Hodgetts leading. Ian Flux on the outside of him. He's going to have to give way. He does. Into the S's. Still nose to tail. Hodgetts there with Flux challenging on the inside. There, the smoky car of Gavin Cooper. Bodywork rubbing against the rim. Rod Gretton spins in his first Tuscan race ever. Off he goes into the gravel trap. Rod Gretton, who raced a TVR 390 many, many years ago, is out of his first Tuscan race, as here are the leaders, still nose to tail. Ian Flux now looking for a way up alongside Chris Hodgetts. This is without doubt the best TVR race we have seen for a long, long time. Flux looking for a way around on the outside of Chris Hodgetts. That is not going to work, but Hodgetts is slow through Redgate there as he fumbles for a gear. Mark Hales right with them now. It's a three-way fight for the lead as they come down the hill. Ian Flux looking for a way now, back past Chris Hodgetts. Here they come, into the old hairpin. The curb hopping, wheel lifting, Ian Flux in second place. And there is TVR champion Peter Wheeler as Steve Cole gets it all wrong behind him. Round it goes, onto the grass, into the gravel, onto the escape road, spins again. Fab 1 is not having a fab time. Hodgetts there, slowing, he's in trouble, Flux goes past him, Hales goes past him, it's all gone horribly quiet. As far as Chris Hodgetts is concerned, he pulls onto the grass, the engine has let go in a big, big way, and that has showered Ian Flux's windscreen and visor with oil, and it means that now on the inside of the Melbourne hairpin, Mark Hales goes through into the lead. Incredible! Mark Hales, who was a long way back in third at the start of the race, is now leading as they come through to start the last lap. This is surely one of the best Tuscan races we've had all year, and Mark Hales is going to win unless Ian Flux can find a way past him. Here they come, over the line. Flux in second place, Mark Hales in the lead, and last year's TVR Tuscan champion intends to win here at Donington. He leads this year's championship, he wants to win it as well. The red Tuscan then out of Redgate, Mark Hales, the journalist, in the lead. Black and orange flag being shown, that means warning, there's something hanging off your car. It goes out to Gavin Cooper, whose car has got great damage after that earlier drama. Leaders nose to tail. Hales from Flux. Under Starkey's Bridge for the last time. Ian Flux all over the back of Mark Hales. He wants to win here at Donington in the 7th round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge. But Mark Hales is a very experienced campaigner. He knows how to keep Flux behind him, and up they go towards Coppice with just sufficient daylight separating the two cars to enable Mark Hales to hang on now up to the checkered flag. Down they come, in towards the S's, oil flag out. Ian Flux knows about that, most of it's all over his windscreen. Ian Flux then, in second place behind Mark Hales, turning into the S's. Now Ian Flux has slowed right down. I don't think this is just a lack of visibility, I think maybe he's got problems, and a smiling Chris Hodgetts out of the race watches the couple of cars in the lead now making their way up to the flag as he's joined Bob Sands in the dead car park at the S's. Goddard's for the final time. Mark Hales wins the 7th round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge in fine style, but where's Flux? Flux has dropped completely right out of contention. He coasts across the line with a blown engine, so Mark Hales wins, but Ian Flux was very lucky to finish at all. Hales, Flux and Blower the top 3, from John Kent 4th ahead of Peter Wheeler and Chris Marriott completing the top 6. Mark Hales it is who still leads the championship with Ian Flux 2nd. Colin Blower is 3rd ahead of Kent, Marriott and Cooper. Round 8 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge brings the drivers to Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire, one of the most spectacular circuits in the country, and it really lends itself to these mighty Blackpool-built sports cars. Lining up on pole position for the first time this season is Preston rest home owner John Kent, the Norway-backed car, fastest of all in practice by just 0.4 of a second. Championship leader Mark Hales lines up second on the grid, looking for another victory. Fourth on the grid is Jerry Marshall, number 69. Simon Wayne, third on the grid, a Gola Shoes-backed car, always going well round here. Ready then for the start of what promises to be an excellent race. It's going to be 12 laps round the Cadwell Park full circuit, and we're on board with Mark Hales ready for the start. Waiting for the lights to flash the green, they do now. The Tuscans rumble their way away from the line. John Kent it is, number 27 with the yellow and blue car just nosing into the lead. They head through COMBE for the first time, heading into the long right-hander of Charlie's. Mark Hales tucking in second place. Up Park Straight now. Very fast part of the circuit. John Kent it is in the lead. Hales there in second. Third is Jerry Marshall. A good start sees Bob Sands in fourth, and the man to watch who started 23rd on the grid is number 5, Colin Blower, the former champion. Had problems in practice when he went off, and he has left himself with a lot of work to do. Through Park for the first time, accelerating then into Chris Curve, and then they'll drop down the hill. Out of the gooseneck into Mansfield. Kent from Hales, first and second. It's a narrow circuit, and these cars really look spectacular around it. So Kent it is up front. There in second place is Mark Hales. We're on board with him now, heading up the mountain. Left and then right, in with the power. The car's briefly airborne over the top there of the mountain. Fourth is Bob Sands. Fifth is Steve Cole. Whoops, that was Marty Cross getting involved in a bit of a moment. The car onto the grass. He controls it, sorted itself out, and he lost the place there to Simon Wayne. Out of all bends, through the hairpin for the first time. The field all closing up to one another. On board again with Mark Hales. Turning through Barn, accelerating now up through the gears, heading over the start and finish line. Martin Krause has spun again. This time he's been attacked by Peter Wheeler. The yellow flags waving. TVR's chairman, Peter Wheeler, trying to get going again, but Martin Krause having had a fairly hectic opening lap. Kent in the lead then. In second place is Mark Hales, being terrorised now by Jerry Marshall. Marshall looking for a way through on the inside as they head up Park Straight, heading now in towards Park Corner. Mark Hales moves across though, the performance car journalist maintaining second place. There is Jerry Marshall now in third. Swinging their way out of Chris Curve, dropping down the hill. Fourth and fifth, Bob Sands and Steve Cole, and a big slide from John Kent. He's in the lead, he's pulling away. Hales and Marshall, two of British National Motor Racing's most experienced drivers, and they're accelerating now off to the little wiggle before the mountain. A big accident there. Off into the tyre wall in a big way goes Norris Miles, the Kiwi, a former production saloon car champion. Thunders his way into the tyres. Norris Miles is okay, he clambers out of the car, but he is out of the race. Another spinner, Mick Schofield going off. There is Jerry Marshall. The car has come to a grinding halt on the grass. Big Jerry makes his way out of the car. A mechanical problem then forcing Jerry Marshall out of the race. Good to see him back in the championship, one of the most spectacular drivers of all. Number 5 though, there is Colin Blower, scything his way up from 23rd and last on the grid on the inside there of Bob Sands. Blower now in the top 6, what a drive. Kent and Hales, first and second as they drop down the hill. Turning through Mansfield now, accelerate away off towards the mountain. Mark Hales looking for a way past John Kent. He's not quite close enough to challenge here though. Can he pressure Kent into a mistake? They go left, they go right, they go up the mountain. The car's airborne. They make a fine sight. Off now through the hall bands, heading towards the hairpin. John Kent here is able to pull away. Past the stricken Jerry Marshall car they go. Mark Hales, who took it relatively easy in the first part of the race, preserving tyres, preserving brakes, is now closing on Kent once again. Big wobble midway there through Barn Corner. That's allowed John Kent to pull away a little bit more. Up a gear goes Hales, past the pits, over the line. The rest of the field making their way through. Peter Wheeler back in the race. The AJP 8 powered Tuscan turning now through the hall bends after that moment earlier on with Martin Krause. Somebody else off there, all over the grass goes Neil Walker. The Station Hill Garage entry off in a big way. Yellow flags out, oil flags out as well. That's going to make the circuit very slippery if there's oil on the road. Somebody else has spun off and is hidden from view. Well, past him go both Kent and Mark Hales. Possibly Martin Krause that was, having had a drama. John Kent though, responding to the challenge put on him by Mark Hales, is pulling away. Kent, who raced in the first truck Grand Prix in Britain some 10 years ago, won last year at Snetterton. He's been out of the winner's circle since last August. Can he fight back and win here in Lincolnshire? It looks as though he can. Number 27, John Kent, about to turn into Park Corner. The Bower Mill at Tuscan rumbling its way out of Park through Chris Curve and dropping down the hill. We're on board again with Mark Hales. The driver being careful all the way around the lap, feeding in the power. Here, though, is the fight for third and fourth places. Simon Wayne, sliding his way into park, is third, but in fourth place, and right behind him, from 23rd on the grid, is Colin Blower. A tremendous drive. Here's the leader. Here's John Kent. The car airborne again over the top of the mountain. Mark Hales going for points. He doesn't need to win races. He still has a good lead in the championship, and his main rival, Ian Flux, absent this weekend. Mark Newman's car in trouble there. Yellow flag being waved. I suspect he might have caught fire, hence all the extinguishers around it. Kent and Hales then coming out of Barn Corner, accelerating their way now up over the line. We're on board with Hales now. He's got just a couple of laps or so to go in which to get past John Kent. There's the fight for third and fourth places. Wayne and Blower. Colin Blower tucked right up behind Simon Wayne as the checkered flag is shown to them. A lap early. It was a 12-lap race. The race being stopped after 11 laps, possibly as a result of Mark Newman's car in a dangerous place with the marshals having to work on it. And so victory goes to John Kent for the first time this year. He is a happy man. Mark Hales takes second ahead of Simon Wayne. Hales leads the championship from Blower, Kent, Flux and Chris Maris. Here at Alton Park in Cheshire, the scene is set for the 9th round of this year's TVR Tuscan Challenge. John Kent won last time out, and he's the man who will start from pole position here today. There's problems though already for the TVR brigade after a delay from an earlier race has delayed the programme by half an hour. It means that the race has been cut to just 6 laps. Kent though, starting from pole, has to keep the field behind him every inch of the way. That's going to be tough because alongside him on the front row is the ever-determined Ian Flux, the versatile Fluxy, having one of his irregular outings in the championship. On board with Steve Cole, starting on the inside of the 4th row of the grid. 6 laps and away they go. A cracking start by Ian Flux and a good one too by Peter Wheeler with the silver car moving up on the outside of the road there. But it's Ian Flux who leads as they turn into Old Hull Corner for the first time. The field all chasing after him. We're on board again with Steve Cole. As past us comes Colin Blower. It was a slow start from Blower, and it's Ian Flux who leads as they come into Cascades for the first time. In second place is Mark Hales. Third and fourth, John Kent, just ahead of the vastly experienced Jerry Marshall. Number 40, Martin Stewart, the Moose as he's known, goes round on the outside there at Cascades. And the field now setting off into Island Bend. Ian Flux in the lead from Mark Hales in second place, and we're on board with Steve Cole. He's getting a bit close up ahead. Colin Blower there very nearly touched Peter Wheeler's car as they go now in towards Shallow Hills Corner. Into and out of the right-hander. Bit of a gap between the top 4, and then Simon Wayne 5th. In 6th place, number 55. That is Mark Hughes, the journalist, and Colin Blower right up behind him. We're on board with Steve Cole. Down a gear, coming into Fulstons. But last time the championship was at Alton Park, it was an all-action race. Will it be the same today? Just 6 laps for them, and it's Flux ahead of Hales as they come into Knickerbrook for the first time. John Kent now in 3rd place. Jerry Marshall is in 4th. And moving up there, or trying to move up in the background, number 33, Nick Cresswell. Right up behind number 7, Bob Sands. The field all funneling through Knickerbrook. There's Chris Maris, number 19. A long way down for Chris at his local circuit, and we're on board with him now. He slows right down there, coming out of Knickerbrook. He's heading for the pits. Maris losing places, hand over fist. A bad day for the Cheshire Garage owner. Ian Flux in the lead, coming down now into Lodge Corner. Mark Hales right behind him. Yellow flag out there because as a result of the damage done to the barriers earlier on, it's not really safe for you to charge in too much in case you go off into the barriers. And that's for Flux. Flux and Peter Wheeler, in fact, both being given 10-second penalties for jumping the start. Well, that now really turns the complexion of this race on its head because it means that Mark Hales will go into the lead, John Kent will go to 2nd, and Jerry Marshall will certainly move up to 3rd. Ian Flux now has a real job on his hands in the remaining 4.5 laps to pull 10 seconds clear of the rest of them. A big effort made there by John Kent, the man who runs a chain of nursing homes to try and get 2nd place. Chris Maris out of the car, out of the race. He doesn't look at all pleased. Down to Knickerbrook. Ian Flux with a bonnet flapping there just ahead of Mark Hales. John Kent it is in 3rd place. Jerry Marshall throwing the car through in 4th. And the field now accelerating off out of Knickerbrook, up the hill. A real driver's circuit, Alton Park. And you've got to drive one of these Tuscans very vigorously indeed. Lots of power, 4.5 litres. A very physical type of racing car. Ian Flux and Mark Hales 1st and 2nd. Now Jerry Marshall there dropping back in 4th place. Problems for number 12. That is John Reed, the man who worked for TVR Development. The car being pushed away, Reed out of the race. Jerry Marshall has gone missing from that top 3, the car falling further and further back. the top three out of Old Hall. It's still Ian Flux just in the lead, and there is Jerry Marshall, the car heading into the pits, the exhaust dragging on the road. Jerry Marshall out of the race. On board with Steve Cole, on comes the light on the dash that says change up. He does so. Now changing down through the gears though as he comes into the left-hander of Cascades. Ian Flux with his hand up there, coming into Ireland, the car sliding as he gets both hands back on the wheel. Oh, I wonder why he had his hand up. They're heading in towards Shell, where John Reed's car was being pushed out of the way a little earlier on. Maybe he was warning the field that they should go a little bit slower because of that. Who knows? Flux in the lead then. Trying to pull 10 seconds clear of Mark Hales. Jerry Marshall in the pits with problems. Ian Flux in the lead, coming across the line, and he is now, you can see, pulling away from Mark Hales. Being challenged there by John Kent on the inside of Old Hall. Kent going through under braking up into second place, comes in very quickly. So John Kent up into second place, a brave manoeuvre that, putting him up into second ahead now of Mark Hales. Well, if they can battle and hold themselves up, it will play into the hands of Ian Flux, but I don't really think they're going to hold each other up too much. You can see the way that John Kent is now trying to pull away from Mark Hales and close on Fluxy. We're on board again with Steve Cole, dropping down into Cascades. He's 7th at the moment. 6th ahead of him is Colin Blair, and 5th, the red car of journalist Mark Hughes, the Nigel Mansell Sports Cars entry. Here, though, is the leader, Ian Flux. Well, he has been able to pull away from the John Kent-Mark Hales battle, but I don't think sufficiently. A 6-lap race, remember, which really means that pulling 10 seconds clear is a hard thing to do. The field now coming through Knickerbrook. There's Peter Wheeler, another man with a penalty. Bob Sands with right up behind him, Nick Cresswell. Cresswell, the ex-Monte New Car champion, spins. He rides up onto the curbs, the car spins off onto the grass on the inside of the circuit. Now he should be able to rejoin. I was going to say Cresswell going very well, but he's now gone very well off onto the grass. The engine fires up, Nick spins the wheels and sets off back onto the circuit. Ian Flux coming up across the line with John Kent chasing after him now. Kent in second place, locking up there, coming into Old Hall corner. Squeal of tyres, Kent's off, John Kent spins. We saw so many cars have brake problems here in April. Well, maybe Kent has brake problems as well here this weekend because the car came in very quickly, ran out of road, and Kent half spun. He's now being attacked by Simon Wade. Here is the battle for the lead as they come down into Knickerbrook. It may not be a battle on the road, but it certainly is in terms of time. Hales close enough in order to take a victory here. He's 10 seconds within Ian Flux, and they now make their way up Clay Hill, heading towards Druids. Flux will win on the road, but it rather looks as though yet another win is going to go the way of Mark Hales. Ian Flux then, the man who won at Castle Combe, the man who won at Thruxton, comes up to win on the road at Oulton Park. Out goes the checkered flag. Ian Flux takes the flag first, but that man, Mark Hales, will win on corrected times. Ian Flux salutes the marshals, but Mark Hales scores victory overall. Hales wins by 6.86 seconds with Ian Flux second and John Kent third. Ready then for the start of this 10-lap race. The lights go green, a very slow getaway by John Kent, and in trouble already there is Nick Wales' car pulling off onto the grass, and spinning off in avoidance of him was Martin Stewart. Jerry Marshall though going around on the outside, the yellow car in the lead. Mark Hales' red Tuscan tucks in second place. Number 2 Rod Breton, another Leicester driver, goes through on the outside of number 4 Mark Newman, and there out of the race already is Nick Whale. Not a happy return to Tuscan territory for Nick Whale, and Martin Stewart's car is looking very sorry for itself. It spun into the barrier while trying to avoid Whale, and now Martin Stewart, the Moose as he likes to be known, is out of the race altogether. Jerry Marshall leads, Mark Hales third and fourth on Colin Blair's blue and white car, and John Kent who's right up alongside him. Kent going through on the inside of the S's. Very close indeed there. Another drama at number 9 is Gavin Cooper getting it all wrong in the middle of the S's. He spins off harmlessly onto the grass while Rod Breton goes off in avoidance. He's joined on the green bit there by Mick Schofield, but they're both able to carry on. The leaders coming down to Russell then to complete that one of the 10. Jerry Marshall it is in the lead, throwing the car through. Mark Hales in second place. In third is John Kent. Mark Hughes is fourth. Then 5th and 6th, Steve Curl going through just ahead of Simon Wayne. There's drama there. Bob Sands has a very crumpled car. Number 7 Bob Sands continues. Smoke pouring off the rear there as the bodywork rubs against the tyre rim, so he is in trouble. Jerry Marshall's got a problem too. The problem is Mark Hales, and he's right up behind Jerry. There in 4th place is journalist Mark Hughes chasing after John Kent, and Colin Blower is slipping further and further down the order from that outside of row 1 grid position. Mark Hales having a look on the inside of Jerry Marshall though as they come down into the S's. Can Hales find a way through? No, he can't. Marshall just manages to shut the door in time. In 3rd place is John Kent, the Preston Rest Home owner, now trying to close on Mark Hales. Kent, who won at Cadwell Park, multiple race winner. Mark Hales, the other journalist in the race, tucked right up behind Jerry Marshall, looking for a way through on the inside at Corham. They're side by side as they come into the corner. Who's going to come out in front? It's Hales. Mark Hales leads. Jerry Marshall is pushed down to second. Third is Kent. Fourth is Mark Hughes, and they are all closing up to one another now. Out of Russell. A real car-braking corner. Russell, you go down through the gears, hard on the brakes, really does grind through the transmission, and now the cars accelerate up over the line. Hales in the lead. Marshall then in second place. Third place is still John Kent. Mark Hughes is fourth. Fifth is Steve Cole. Sixth is number 26. That's Simon Wayne. And there is Jerry Marshall on the limit through the long right-hander of Ritchie's, heading up towards Sear now. Mark Hales, number 39, the reigning TVR Tuscan champion, trying to escape. And there is Steve Cole, who is now pulling away from Wayne and closing, despite running wide there at Sear, onto the tail of Mark Hughes. Steve Cole tucked right up behind Hughes, who's looking for a way past Kent and also trying to block Steve Cole. The leaders, though, coming down into the S's. John Kent looking for a way past Jerry Marshall. Steve Cole looking for a way past Mark Hughes. Number 3, Liverpool driver, Steve Cole, tucked right up behind the journalist. Mark Hughes gets very sideways in the S's, races the dust. That's Blower! That's Colin Blower who has gone off. He started second on the grid. It has not been a happy day for him. As there, number 18, John McQuilkin, turned through, the man who swapped his Lotus Carlton road car for a Tuscan, and is now discovering what a hairy car is really all about. He's battling away with Nigel Tuscan there, the ex-historic TVR racer. Tuscan in the red car, looking for a way through on the inside of Maidenhead driver McQuilkin, as down they come, into the S's. Nigel Tuscan decides it's better off tucked up behind McQuilkin as they come then down into the left and right-handers of the S's. Tuscan locking up there, getting away with it. Yellow flag being waved at Russell, so somebody has gone off in a big way, but here come the leaders. Mark Hales, Jerry Marshall, John Kent, the top 3. There is Kent, the Norweb-sponsored Tuscan, turning through Ritchie's. There's a squeal of Charles behind it. It's Steve Cole going off. Steve Cole spins. Fab 1, it says on the back, but that was not a fab way to go around the corner. A big spin for the Liverpudlian. He rejoins. More places lost. Andy Purvish, returning to the Tuscan Challenge, goes past in the green car, and it was Rod Gretton who had spun at Russell. There is Gretton rejoining. The yellow flag withdrawn. Hinkley driver Rod Gretton sets off back into the action. His first year of TVR Tuscan racing, but he's been a stalwart of TVRs in the past. Leaders coming now into the bomb hole. Jerry Marshall closing up once again to performance car journalist Mark Hales in the lead, and there now up into 5th place is Simon Wayne, the ex-Formula Ford 1600 racer, closing on Mark Hughes. The leaders coming down into Russell. Flames spitting out of the exhaust of Hales' car. There's Jerry Marshall, riding all over the curbs. He's very physical with the cars here, is Jerry Marshall, bouncing over the curbs, crashing up and down through the gears. He's accelerating up over the line, but being caught by John Kent, and I think Marshall's got a problem. John Kent is second. Jerry Marshall has slowed right down. Mark Hughes goes up to 3rd, Simon Wayne 4th, and Jerry Marshall is in big trouble. You could just see a glimpse of the yellow car in the background as he coasts over the line. Jerry Marshall's race is run, and that now takes the pressure off Mark Hales in the lead, or does it, because John Kent is closing. Mark Hughes goes through in 3rd place, the brother of Formula 3 driver Warren Hughes, and there is Jerry Marshall's car being pushed away as out of the pits comes Rod Gretton. Race leader Hales on his way down to Russell, but the man to watch is John Kent. His car behaving better in this second part of the race, and he's closing up to the leader as Mark Hughes gets all sideways there. Round it goes. Mark Hughes, the journalist, spins it away at Russell, gets it into reverse gear, keeps the engine running, full marks for that, and he is now able, by clipping the curbs and touching the gravel, to rejoin. So Mark Hughes continues in the race, but he's lost a place to Simon Wayne. The two leaders, nose to tail now. Mark Hales with John Kent right up behind him. What can Kent do to find a way past Hales? Well, he uses a lot more of the concrete there, coming out of the tight right-hander of Sear corner. Cadwell winner Kent tucked right up behind the vastly experienced Mark Hales. They're on their way now down to the S's. Is he going to go through under braking? He's having a look on the inside line. John Kent goes through into the lead, or does he? Mark Hales does not give him any room at all. They're side by side into the S's. Kent going through on the outside, but he spins. Kent spins it. Round goes the number 27 car of John Kent. It disappears backwards off in a cloud of dust. So Mark Hales comes through all on his own in the lead. It's going to be yet another victory for the bearded journalist. Simon Wayne moves up into 2nd place, and John Kent will be furious with himself for spinning it away at the S's. So for the final time out of Russell comes Mark Hales. He's going to win here at Snetterton. He accelerates now up towards the line. John Kent recovers to take 7th place, but victory goes to Mark Hales. He crosses the line, chased home by Simon Wayne, with Mark Hughes finishing in 3rd, his best ever TVR Tuscan result. Steve Cole, despite a spin, is 4th, Mark Newman 5th, and Andy Purvis, returning to Tuscans, is 6th. Mark Hales in the centre of the three drivers on the podium, winning and extending his lead in the championship. He's a happy man. Mark Hales lines up on pole position for the 11th round of this year's TVR Tuscan Challenge, the race for the Land Rover Trophy. Hales the reigning champion and this year's championship leader, with Steve Cole alongside him on the front row of the grid. Cole, the Liverpudlian, eager to beat Hales here at Silverstone, while on the second row is a big threat. Ian Flux is back in a Tuscan and determined to beat Hales here. Alongside him is Colin Blower, who won earlier on in the year at Mallory Park, and Blower has been out of the winner's circle in the last few rounds. The third row sees John Kent lining up alongside Mark Newman, going extremely well. Row 4 is Jerry Marshall alongside TVR chairman Peter Wheeler, with the fifth row being Mark Hughes and ex-Le Mans winner Andy Wallace out in the HRO in back car. 15 laps, Silverstone's national circuit each go. Good start by Steve Cole there from the inside of the front row of the grid, but Mark Hales sets off at a good pace. We're on board with Ian Flux looking at John Kent on the outside of us. Peter Wheeler going well there, he's cleansing up on a braking. Jerry Marshall locks up on the outside, somebody's off, Gavin Cooper there. Goes off, takes Bob Sands with him, takes Rod Breton with him. 3 cars off there, at Copse on the opening lap. Mark Hughes there in the red Tuscan runs very wide at Beckett's, being challenged by Jerry Marshall, whose team had to rebuild the engine after practice before this race. Marshall though losing out, Nick Cresswell goes past him on the run down in towards Brooklands. There's somebody in the background with flapping bodywork. Hales leading at Brooklands on lap 1. Mark Hughes turns through, there's Cresswell, then Simon Wayne, a long way back for him, and there's the battered car of Andy Purvis, ex-motorcycle racer. He switched away from a Marcos GT car back to a Tuscan, but the Tuscan looks very second-hand. He's into Luffield, John Kent is through Woodcote and up across the line. The red dot in the distance is Mark Hales, and that's Martin Stewart spinning off at Brooklands. He was disqualified from practice for overtaking under the yellow flags. He started at the back, now he's spun. John Kent there, the Norweb gas back car turning out of Copse, and Ian Flux is out of the race. Ian Flux pulling off. The car sounds horrible. I suspect he's got a gearbox problem of some sort, but Flux is going no further. Hales on his way to Brooklands. John Kent being caught, I think, by Colin Blower. The two of them now set for a real battle. If they can hold themselves up, that will all benefit Mark Hales, who's still in the lead. Through the right-hander now. In comes the power, up through Woodcote. John Kent, a vastly experienced driver of Tuscans and also of TVRs since the late 70s, when he used to race them in production sports cars against Colin Blower. Blower went off to race Porsches in production sports cars and then Colt Saran turbos in production saloons, but he's now back behind the wheel of a TVR and he's doing extremely well. A former champion and closing on Kent. That is Nigel Tustin going off at Brooklands, fighting for control. He's on the grass, it's a bit slippery, and eventually round it goes. So Tustin trying to rejoin. Andy Purvis heading for the pits. Not surprising because the rear of his Tuscan is falling apart. A lot of the fiberglass bodywork ripped off there, and Andy Purvis limps down the pit lane. There's the leader, Mark Hales. Kent and Blower are getting a bit closer to him. Colin Blower is determined, as you can see, to find a way past John Kent as they come into Brooklands. And I rather wonder whether Hales may have some sort of a problem, because certainly Kent and Blower are much, much closer. Cole, Steve Cole in trouble there. Hand out of the cockpit, he pulls off onto the oval. He's going not much further. Hales, Kent and Blower, first, second and third, are coming through Woodcote Corner. And I don't think this race is over by any means yet as far as the lead battle is concerned. It could be over for Andy Wallace though, because that car is slowing. Wallace out in the car that we've seen Tim Harvey and Perry McCarthy drive in the past, but Wallace in trouble. He's heading for the pit lane. Here are the leaders. Hales certainly being caught by Kent and Blower. The championship leader, Mark Hales, comes into Beckett's, hard on the brake, turns the car into the right-hander. A wide approach, Kent right there behind him. Could well be that Mark Hales' tyres are now going off a little bit, but Colin Blower is looking for a way past John Kent. All of these three drivers could yet win this race. Hales has the advantage of being in front, but Blower is really on a charge. He's going through on the inside of Kent, up into second place. Super bit of driving that by Blower. Neat and tidy, controls the car well. Kent looking for that second place back, but it's not to be. Hales is going to come out in front. John Kent looking for second place on the inside at Luffield too. There's Blower, still in second place. So Colin Blower is second. Hales has a good look in the mirror. He sees the Harrogate Horseless Carriages back car of Colin Blower in second place, and Hales now knows he's got to go for it. Colin Blower breaking away slightly from John Kent. We look at further battles. Mick Schofield coming into Brooklands with an effort made on the inside there of Chris Webster's white car by Roger Connell. Connell, who has raced TVR Tuscans of the 60s variety in historic sports car events, and Chris Webster, a man who swapped his road car Sierra Cosworth for a Tuscan a few years ago. Connell with a very distinctive livery on the flanks of his TVR, right up behind Webster. We're on board with Kent. We're looking at the lead battle. We're on the last lap, and Blower is all over the back of Hales. Mark Hales making that car as wide as is possible, in a polite manner, you understand, with Colin Blower looking for a way past him. He's tucked right up behind him though now, trying to get a toe down the club straight and then dive out at the last possible moment at Brooklands. But Hales gives Blower the outside line. It's not really the ideal place to try. Colin Blower comes into the corner. Hales determined to win this race at Silverstone, the Land Rover Trophy, a prestigious round of the championship, and Blower looking for a way past on the inside, the door closed. They come out nose to tail, headlights ablaze on Blower's car. Mark Hales in the red Tuscan is the race leader, the championship leader, the flag beckons. It's going to be a virtual dead heat as Blower comes up to the outside, but Hales just has enough drag to put him ahead again, and Mark Hales is going to win round 11 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge. He does so by 1300ths of a second from Colin Blower, with John Kent taking third place ahead of Mark Newman fourth, with Simon Wayne fifth, and Peter Wheeler completing the top six. Mark Hales increases his lead in the championship though after a splendid battle. He's joined there on the podium by Blower and Kent after a hard race. The TVR Tuscan Challenge at Snetterton round 12 was a double header. The first race was very much a Jerry Marshall benefit, certainly over the opening laps as the TVR centre car pulled away from the rest of the field. In the closing stages though, disaster. As Marshall had an overheating problem, it caused his retirement, and up from fourth into the lead came Colin Blower. He'd had an earlier clash with Mark Hales. Hales had a problem with a lack of third gear, but Blower had no dramas at all. He was able to make his way up towards the checkered flag and victory by over 6 seconds from the opposition. Blower, out of the winner's circle in the last few races, was back, and back with a vengeance. The gap between Hales and Blower in the championship was coming down. It put Blower on pole position for the second race, and it restored his confidence with another win. Steve Cole took second and Simon Wayne third ahead of Peter Wheeler, Mark Newman and Nick Cresswell completing the top six. But with a number of the regular frontrunners starting at the back of the grid, among them Jerry Marshall and John Kent, race 2 was going to be a cracker. We're on board with Chris Maris, who retired from the earlier race after a stone punctured the radiator, and Chris Maris finds himself a long way back on the grid. The lights go green, it's blast off, he's already up alongside John Kent, rocketing past Charlotte Osborne, but just look at Jerry Marshall go. Jerry Marshall ahead there in the orange car, who retired from the first race with overheating, is absolutely storming his way through the field. Marshall goes up, clipping the curb on the inside, lets the back step out, clips the curb again, on his way up towards Sear Corner. Dirt and dust being kicked up as Marshall outbreaks Mick Schofield. He's up alongside Mark Hales as well, and through he goes. Jerry Marshall is absolutely flying. Chris Maris blasts his way now down the Rivet Straight, but it's Blower and Cole battling first and second, and number 69, Jerry Marshall, rockets down the inside of Rod Greffin, who's got a mirror that's come loose already. There's Nick Cresswell, number 33, looking for a way past, but Jerry Marshall is on a real charge. An incredible first lap from him. Under the vehicle bridge they go. The leader swinging through the right-hander of the bomb hole, and Jerry Marshall looks to be up into fifth place already as Bob Sands goes past Chris Maris on the inside there. Through Coram. Blower it is in the lead, Cole in second place, third is Simon Wayne, fourth is Mark Newman going exceptionally well, and in fifth place is Jerry Marshall. Jerry Marshall coming through in fifth place then at the end of lap 1, the dust being kicked up, but Marshall, who don't forget started a long way down on the grid, having retired in the earlier race, he was 18th on the grid, he's now 5th, he's now 4th, he's ahead of Mark Newman as they get to Riches. Through the right-hander, up towards Sear, we're still on board with Maris, and that ahead is Bob Sands, he's looking for a way past him. No chance to get through there. Sands drifting out wide, possibly Chris Maris able to have a run as they make their way down the Rivet Straight, and again Bob Sands just with enough grunt in a straight line to fend off the Cheshire driver. Sands moves across, Maris has to try the outside line, Steve Cole there locking up and staying with him, very much so, is Simon Wayne. It's still Colin Blower, the race 1 winner in the lead, Marshall there in fourth, and Morsberg out of the back. Now we saw that in the first race today, and it eventually led to Jerry Marshall's retirement with overheating. Maybe it's going to happen again, who knows? Rod Gritton there, number 2, losing a place as Bob Sands goes past him on the inside. Blower, Cole and Wayne, first, second and third, dropping down into Russell with Jerry Marshall closing up hand over fist in fourth place with the yellow car. Jerry Marshall, number 69, having started 18th, is flying. In fifth place there is Mark Hales, down to 6th is Mark Newman, and 7th and 8th are Sands and Maris, and we're on board with Chris Maris here now. Glorious noise from the V8 4.5 litre engine of the TVR Tuscans. Across the line goes Chris Maris, through Riches go the leaders, and Steve Cole is all over the back of Colin Blower. This lead battle delaying those involved and allowing Jerry Marshall there in fourth place, turning through Sear now to close up, but he's being caught in turn by Mark Hales, the championship leader. Steve Curl in trouble possibly there. He pulls to one side. Up alongside him and past him goes Simon Wayne. Down into the S's they go. It is Blower then in the lead. Simon Wayne is the new second raceman, and Colin Blower goes off. Colin Blower spins. He was in the lead. He's now on the grass. He's able to rejoin. Jerry Marshall goes up to third with all the smoke, and off goes Rod Gretton. Blower and Gretton, who raced TVRs in prod sports in the late 70s, both go off together. On the same part of the circuit at any rate. Colin Blower is able to rejoin, but he has lost an awful lot of ground now. Here is the new race leader. It is Simon Wayne, with up into second place now Steve Cole. Third is Mark Hales. Cole looking up there. Hales is ahead of Jerry Marshall, and Marshall dropping back. You've seen a bit more of that smoke coming from the rear of number 69, so maybe Marshall has got a problem once again. There goes Mark Hales, who lost third gear early on in the first race after having a little clash with Colin Blower. But Simon Wayne, the race leader, comes up over the line with now Steve Cole and Mark Hales battling for second place. Hales in the red car goes to the inside of the former champion. They're side by side into the corner. Hales has the tighter line. He should be able to go through the second place. He clips the curve. He does go through. Up into second position then goes Mark Hales, and Steve Cole is down in third but still fighting. Jerry Marshall is fourth, being caught by this man, Chris Maris. We're on board now with Maris out of Sear along the Revitt Straight. Up a gear goes Chris Maris as Mark Hales comes into the braking area for the S's. Ex-British Touring Car Championship driver turning now out of the right-hand element of the S's. More smoke from the back of Jerry Marshall's car. That is very bad news. It led to his retirement in the first race with overheating. Can Jerry Marshall get to the end of this second 15-lap dash safely? Chris Maris coming into Coram Curve, applying all the power very gingerly indeed. He doesn't want the car to drift out wide and risk having a moment. Second, third, fourth and fifth, diving down into Russell then. In sixth place, recovering after his spin, is Colin Blower. But the Trinity Sport car of Chris Maris chasing after Jerry Marshall. John Kent up into seventh place, another driver who had dramas in the first race, and John Kent started 17th on the grid. Marshall being passed. Chris Maris goes past him, and Maris goes past Steve Cole as well. A super bit of driving. Chris Maris rockets between the two cars. Now, have they both got problems? Well, certainly Steve Cole has slowed right down. He turns to the right hand of Riches. Steve Cole, I fear, is heading for retirement. A lot of drivers here this weekend have suffered from stones puncturing the radiators. Maybe Cole's got that problem as well. Mark Hales down into the S's. The new third place man, Chris Maris, up into fourth is now John Kent. Down to fifth goes Colin Blower. Blower driving up through the field after a spin. Kent moving up through the field after a lowly grid position caused by retiring from the first race. But here, with no dramas at all, it seems, is Simon Wayne. Second place, Mark Hales coming down into Russell. Now Hales doesn't have to worry about what's going on behind him. He can pick his lines, he can start to attack Simon Wayne. And Hales knows all about winning TVR Tuscan races. He goes up through the gears as we swing now through the complex of Russell with Chris Maris. Maris going very well indeed here. Real contrast to the last time at Snetterton, where he retired on the warming up lap. Simon Wayne freewheeling his way through Riches. Across the line comes Chris Maris, nervously looking alongside him, and that's the reason why Blower goes through. Colin Blower swings around the outside of Chris Maris, moving up ahead. Blower won the first race. He started from pole, but a spin early on in this race dropped him back down the order. Into Sear they go. Race leader Simon Wayne coming into the S's. Into the left-hander, then the right-hander. In with the power once again, under the vehicle bridge, and that's Chris Maris in trouble. Chris Maris waving people past him. He retired from race 1. It looks like he's going to retire from race 2 also. And Jerry Marshall's in trouble as well. Jerry Marshall pulls off. We've seen the smoke getting worse and worse throughout the race, and now Jerry Marshall pulls off with what I fear is going to be a repeat of the overheating problems he had in the first race of the day. Chris Maris pulls off onto the escape road. Looked as though the car got a little bit crossed up there. Maybe there's oil on the circuit, and possibly that's come out of the rear of Jerry Marshall's car. Maris threads his way through the escape road back onto the circuit and carries on, so maybe he's not retiring after all. Simon Wayne, the race leader, comes down into the S's. He gets the car all crossed up. There must be oil on the circuit. Simon Wayne recovers and carries on. Full marks to him as Mark Hales comes down the road straight and goes straight on. Mark Hales goes straight on up the escape road. Smoke from the tiles as he eventually slows the car down. Now, can he rejoin without losing too much time? Simon Wayne threads his way through Russell, and Mark Hales is turning the car round and going the wrong way up the escape road to get back onto the circuit. So a lot of time lost for Mark Hales, having overshot the corner there. Mark Hughes swinging into the S's. He rejoins, and there is Hales. He's gone, as I say, back up the escape road onto the circuit again. Simon Wayne wins, though, here at Snetterton, his first victory of the season, and a splendid race that was. Colin Blower comes across the line in second place, with Mark Hughes third ahead of Mark Hales in fourth. Bob Sands and Mick Schofield going exceptionally well to complete the top 6. So Simon Wayne wins, but it's Mark Hales who still leads the championship ahead of Blower, Kent, Wayne, Flux and Maris. The anti-penultimate round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge at Silverstone, and a mystery. There's no Steve Cole on pole position, despite him having been the fastest man in practice. That leaves Ian Flux on the front row of the grid, all on his own. Flux looking for victory here, with the second row of Colin Blower and Jerry Marshall, ready for the start of this race. And away they go, a cracking getaway by Flux and a dreadful stop by Colin Blower. Really blew the start there, looking back from Peter Wheeler's car. That's Tim Harvey flying up through the field. Harvey in the black car, diving down into the right-hander of Copse, a very full field as ever. And Harvey, having started a long way down, 17th fastest in practice, swinging through on the inside, rapidly making up places. It's Ian Flux in the lead then, with Jerry Marshall in second place. Mark Hales is third as they now turn through Beckett's for the first time. Mark Hales, who could clinch the championship today with a bad result from Colin Blower, right up behind Marshall. Ian Flux in the lead, in fourth place there, Mark Hughes. Fifth is Blower, sixth is John Kent. Andy Purvis with his green car runs a bit wide. Something flies off somebody's machine. Martin Stewart, the Moose, out of Beckett's, through Chapel Curve and onto the hangers straight there. Tim Harvey in the black car has the headlights ablaze, and Ian Flux has a good lead. Smoke from Hales' car, bodywork fouling against the tyre already as it brakes very heavily. The bodywork drops onto the rubber. There goes Tim Harvey. There goes Mark Newman, going very well here at Silverstone in his first year of anything other than single-seater racing. Bob Sands' blue Pioneer car runs wide, and Ian Flux leads Jerry Marshall at the Vale. Through the right-hander. Accelerating now off up towards Abbey. In the lead is Flux, second is Marshall, third is Hales, fourth is Colin Blower around the outside there of John Kent, three abreast behind him. Tremendous battles. Somebody spins, that's Martin Cross. Off into the gravel trap goes Martin Cross. A Cross error possibly that. Ian Flux leads, Jerry Marshall and Mark Hales. That's the top three. Bit of a gap opening up between them and John Kent fourth, and that's Martin Short, trying to dive through on the inside of Colin Blower. Short racing at Tuscan for the first time. He's had only a day's testing. He's going very well indeed, up from the Rover Turbo Championship. Peter Wheeler with the AJP 8 engine car there. Looking back, you can see Martin Stewart right up behind him. The 450 horsepower Tuscans rumble their way down to Copse Corner, with Ian Flux leading and Jerry Marshall there in the TVR Centre entry, trying to keep Mark Hales at bay. Flash of flame on overrun. Mark Hales there closing up for Jerry Marshall. He's looking for a way through. He's on the inside line, and Mark Hales there moving through up into second place. Now he's ahead of Marshall. What can he do to try and close the gap between himself and this man Ian Flux? Flux in the central TVR team's car out of Beckett's. Hales there with a wider line than Jerry Marshall, still second. John Kent is the man fourth, and Short, Harvey and Blower battle over fifth, sixth and seventh. Peter Wheeler has behind him a good battle. Nick Cresswell there going around the outside of Martin Stewart. The former modified saloon car champion Nick Cresswell really going very well here. Jerry Marshall on the inside, but John Kent there trying to take third place away from him on the outside line. It's not going to work surely, and it doesn't. The Norweb car though looking for a way through on the inside, speed of tyres. Mark Newman has lost it. Mark Newman spins off at Stowe. The circuit getting very wet and slippery. Mark Hales goes off there. Sideways, on the grass, on the tarmac. Drops it down a gear, recovers the rev, sets off. Hales then running out of road on a circuit that is getting wetter and wetter and more slippery. Jerry Marshall losing another place. That was Chris Maris going through on the inside, and Marshall's car, I'm sure, has got a problem. It's dropped so far back down the field. Now look at this tremendous battle going on. Mark Hales heading this four-car queue with Kent, Short and Harvey right up behind him. John Kent on the outside, Mark Hales on the inside, Harvey going through ahead of Short. Now can he find a way past John Kent as well? He's going to the inside. You can see how wet the circuit has become. Hales has got it sideways, and again he's off. For the second time, Mark Hales goes off onto the grass. 3 places lost. He gets back in behind Kent, Harvey and Short. Now John Kent getting a bit sideways. He's got the ex-British Touring Car champion Tim Harvey behind him, and there is Martin Short up from the Rover Turbo Series. In comes the power, the back trying to break away, and Mark Hales with a much more sideways Tuscan there behind them. As long as Hales can stay roughly in the top 7 and ahead of Colin Blower, he should be able to take the championship today, still with 2 races to go. Ian Flux splashing his way through in the lead. Here is Mark Hales, braking hard, he's turning into Copse, and ahead there the black car of Tim Harvey goes through on the inside of John Kent. Also moving through, Martin Short ahead of the Preston driver Kent now. So Mark Hales can see this battle going on ahead of him. He doesn't want to press too hard in case it goes off. Roger Connell there turning through, whoops. Brakes on fire, you can see the flames there. We've got a spinner for Mick Schofield. Mick Schofield is the spinner, and he's facing the wrong way. Now he gets it going in roughly the right direction, and in replay we can see Mark Hales running out of road there. He goes off onto the grass, coming through the left-hander of Priory. If you're wrong there, you're wrong all the way through Brooklands, and Mark Hales gets it back on the circuit. Tim Harvey then now rocketing on. He's in a good second place. Martin Short is third, fourth is Kent, and fifth is Hales. That's enough to give him the crown. The red Pro-Tape Tuscan looking for a way through on the inside. The rain has stopped for now, but the circuit is very damp. This time Hales gets Priory right. He's up a place. Being careful in these greasy conditions. Apply the power too early, too quickly, and you're going to find yourself spinning round and out of the race. Hales then ahead of John Kent. New, of course, for 94, the aerodynamic aids, rear wing and front splitter to try and increase a bit of downforce. They're still, though, very entertaining to watch, these cars. Bags of horsepower, 450 horsepower for the Tuscans. Mark Hales there, you can see in the red car, and whoops, there's contact as Bob Sands gets involved with Mark Hughes, and another spinner in sympathy. That was Gavin Cooper. Bob Sands now spins it round altogether. 3 into 1 doesn't go. Bob Sands tries to rejoin. Now that shows you how wet and slippery the grass is, because Bob Sands having another half spin there while trying to rejoin. Peter Wheeler and Rod Gretton come up right behind him there. Peter Wheeler, the TVR chairman, running in new livery this weekend, and Rod Gretton right up behind the chairman Peter Wheeler. Sands then fishtailing as he comes out through Woodcote Corner now. Look how hard he has to work behind the wheel there, trying to keep the car in a straight line. Mark Newman, number 4, coming towards us. Spinner in the background is Nigel Tuscan. Another man with experience of racing classic sports car TVRs. All over the curbs. He's able to rejoin though. Here's the leader, Ian FLUX. He's going to win here at Silverstone. He dives under the bridge and through the right-hander of Bridge Bend. A very fast corner. Reduced speed in these slippery conditions. And Ian FLUX now with no pressure behind him, able to pick his lines and drive well. The mirror drops off on the warming up lap. He's been able to stick it back on and hope for the best. And Hales out of contention here means that Ian FLUX has a far easier task of it than in previous rounds of the championship. The nose drops there as he brakes for Luffield too. Power back on, accelerating carefully through Woodcote Corner. The checkered flag at the ready, and Ian FLUX is going to win by over 8 seconds. The flag goes out, and Ian FLUX the winner at Silverstone, with Tim Harvey in second place and Martin Short third. John Kent, Mark Hales and Colin Blower complete the top 6, and that's enough to crown Mark Hales as the champion of 1994, still with 2 races to go. Ian FLUX in the yellow overalls, a delighted winner here at Silverstone. Brands Hatch plays host to the penultimate round of this year's TVR Tuscan Challenge. Mark Hales has already won the championship. He lines up on the inside of the second row of the grid, with Mark Newman here lining up on pole position for the first time. He's in his first year of Tuscan racing. He's been improving race by race, but alongside him on the front row, Ian FLUX, a man never to be underestimated. Ian FLUX looking for victory then here at Brands on the Indy circuit. Mark Hales there lining up on the inside of the second row of the grid, already the champion. Alongside him is Chris Marris, and there Peter Wheeler, the TVR chairman, with the AJP8 powered Tuscan. 2 enormous air intakes on the bonnet of that car, and Peter Wheeler looking for a good result here at Brands. Looking back from Mark Newman's car. Ready for the red lights to flash the green, they do so. Newman caught out there by the sloping start from pole position at Brands Hatch, but look at Mark Hales go! From third to first, a tremendous start by the journalist Mark Hales, still looking back from Newman's car. The field all battling away behind him. Jerry Marshall there, number 69, up behind him. The cars dropped down the hill for the first time, but Mark Hales, after a super getaway, is in the lead. Ian FLUX is second, John Kent is third, and the cars make their way now through the tight right-hander of Druids. On board with Colin Blower, Martin Stewart just ahead. Almost clashing there with Bob Sands. Past them both goes Mark Hughes. The cars accelerating their way now along bottom straight. Steve Cole, number 3, the man who should have started on pole at Silverstone but failed to make the start of the race at all, is there right up behind Mark Newman. Behind him is Jerry Marshall, and here Mark Hales is in the lead. Only just though, Ian FLUX is right with him. Mark Newman runs wide, Steve Cole looks for a way past him. Bob Sands run wide as well there as they all file through clearways. Peter Wheeler, number 8, accelerates his way up towards the line. Hales and FLUX, the 2 masters of the Tuscans this year, first and second. John Kent is third there. Steve Cole in fourth place, only just fending off Mark Newman, who in turn is under a great deal of pressure there from Simon Wayne. Hales then makes his way up towards Druids. FLUX and Kent not that far behind him. Andy Wallace in number 6, the black HR Owen car going through, and Colin Blower a little bit further down the field than you normally expect to see him, up behind Martin Stewart there. Don't forget, Blower won earlier in the season at Mallory and at Snetterton. He's looking for a way past the Moose as they come down through Graham Hill Bend, right up alongside Martin Stewart, and through he goes. Flash of flame from Hales' car. Ian Flux right out behind him now. John Kent there as well. The top three nose to tail as they make their way out of Clark Curve up towards the line. Steve Cole still in fourth place. No, he's not. He's being caught. He's being passed as they come up towards the line. Steve Cole on the outside. Simon Wayne, Snetterton winner, on the inside line, going through into fourth place and also closing up to John Kent in so doing. Another super race from the TVR Tuscans. Simon Wayne up into fourth, trying now to keep Steve Cole at bay in fifth. They make their way to Druids. Cole number 3, Wayne number 26. Out of Druids. They drop down the hill. Number 3, Steve Cole, the Liverpudlian, looking for a way past Simon Wayne there as they head through Graham Hill Bend. Mark Newman behind. On board now with Colin Blower. Mark Hughes just up ahead, and Blower looking for a way past. The door closed though. The 4.5 litre V8 Tuscans rumbling their way round Brands Hatch with Mark Hales and Ian Flux first and second, and Simon Wayne having a real charge there in third place. John Kent still fourth. The cars now accelerate their way up over the line, and look at Wayne. He's closing all the time on Ian Flux. He's alongside as they head to paddock. Can he go round on the outside? No, he can't, surely. Ian Flux just able to keep that second place. Simon Wayne this time has to try the long way round as they come up the hill towards Druids. John Kent is closing as well, but Ian Flux, a very experienced driver, is able to keep his Tuscan in second place. What it means though is that Mark Hales has pulled away up front a little bit. Simon Wayne, the ex-Formula Ford racer, in third, and the vastly experienced TVR pilot John Kent in fourth. As up into second place goes Simon Wayne, despite Ian Flux's best efforts there to keep the inside line. Wayne goes past him. Wayne goes second. Hales, Wayne, Flux and Kent. That's the top four. Well, can Simon Wayne now do anything about Mark Hales? From 8th on the grid, he's second. All over the grass and a spin there. Number 35, Graham Nash. Can they all avoid him in all of that smoke? Well, so far they have managed so to do. Accelerating back into the race there is Graham Nash. Cars off there. Peter Wheeler's car looks to be one of them. The very badly damaged rear of Peter Wheeler's machine. Marshall's taking avoidance as the cars of Chris Maris and Andy Wallace go all over the grass. We're on board with Blower. Mark Hughes' red car off on the left-hand side of the road there. Well, Blower successfully gets past, but the race is being stopped. Cars littering the circuit. The red flag's brought out to stop the race early. It means that Mark Hales wins. Simon Wayne taking second place. As we look at Peter Wheeler spinning, Mark Hughes very nearly avoided him, but he couldn't quite do so. A big impact that takes two cars out of the race. Rips the rear bodywork off Wheeler's car. Rod Gretton spins in avoidance, and Peter Wheeler thankfully okay, as too Mark Hughes after a very big impact. There's the top six. Ian Flux finishing in 6th position, and in the championship with one more race to go. Mark Hales has already clinched it. Blower and Kent still squabbling for second. The final round of the 1994 TVR Tuscan Challenge, one of the most eagerly awaited races of the year. It's a support race to the Touring Car World Cup. It's here at Donington in front of over 20,000 spectators, and it's John Kent on pole position. That's the view from Hodgetts' car. Red lights on, green lights on, it's go! Wonderful noise from the TVR's 4.5 litre engines, and it's Mark Hales there nosing into the lead in the red Tuscan. Contact behind. Martin Stewart hits Simon Wayne. Wayne goes off. Thwack into the barrier. A lot of damage. Martin Stewart spins as well. Spin, 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 spin. He's still spinning. He's facing the wrong way as we're on board now with Martin Short right up behind Colin Blower. More dramas. Mick Schofield goes off the circuit, and Fabrizio Brogi there, the Italian ex-motorcycle racer, off in avoidance. Short diving down towards the old hairpin. It's Hales, Kent, Hodgetts and Flux, the top four. Colin Blower is 5th, Martin Short 6th. Then it's Andy Wallace and Chris Maris, who had a lousy practice session when Mark Newman drove right into him at the Melbourne hairpin, and Chris Maris started way back, 24th on the grid. Hodgetts there, diving up on the inside of John Kent. The door closed though. Stay behind, says John Kent to Chris Hodgetts, and he does so. Hodgetts runs wide onto the curb, off the curb, up towards the right-hander of Coppice they come for the first time. Mark Hales, the champion, is in the lead. Andy Wallace there, the former Le Mans winner, going through ahead of Chris Maris, and we're on board with Martin Short. He's tucked up behind Colin Blower, the fastest part of Donington, under the Dunlop Bridge, down towards the chicane. Short diving through on the inside, there's not much room, but he's going through. Martin Short dives through, and also going past Colin Blower goes Andy Wallace, but Blower has the inside line. There he goes back at us. Colin Blower on the outside, he's on the grass. Past him goes Wallace, past him goes Maris. On board with Hodgetts now, he's 3rd, Kent is 2nd, and Hales is in the lead. Mark Hales then making his way up to Goddard's to complete the first lap. It's a 10-lapper, and it's John Kent in 2nd place, thinking about having a go on the inside. Thinks better of it though. Hales, the wily journalist, keeps him at bay. Hodgetts here in 3rd place, former champion himself. Red light comes on, that means change gear. He does so, and he's got Ian Flux right up behind him. The top two breaking away then as they come down to Redgate. Hales versus Kent, and there on the inside, Chris Hodgetts being able to fend off Ian Flux, but he runs wide over the curbs there. Hodgetts clips the curbs on the inside, runs wide. The door is left open for Ian Flux to challenge, but the door closed just in the nick of time. Looking back from John Kent's car as he drops down the dauntingly fast Craner curves. Kent in second place. In third is Hodgetts, and fourth is Flux. Making their way under Starkey's Bridge. On board now with Martin Short. He runs wide on the curb on the grass. Keeps it all under control, but he loses a place. Through goes Chris Maris. Chris Maris, having started so far back, 24th on the grid, is driving brilliantly. And in replay, you can see Martin Stewart sliding across the front of Simon Wayne's car at the start. Wayne launched into the concrete wall. That's a big impact. And look at Martin Stewart's car. It's still spinning. The rest of the field avoid him, and Martin Stewart faces the wrong way and tries to sort himself out. Looking back from John Kent's car, Ian Flux there on the outside of Chris Hodgetts, and we're in the lead. Mark Hales drops back into second place. John Kent leads. The Preston Rest Home owner is ahead, or is he? Because Mark Hales is fighting back. Hales on the outside as they approach Goddard's, goes through into the lead, but Kent's got the inside line through. He goes back ahead. John Kent scrabbling for grip on the inside line is ahead. He's in the lead once more, and Mark Hales drops down to second place. Hodgetts is still third, and Flux is fourth. This is brilliant stuff. Across the line, Mark Hales now lines himself up for an attack on the inside as they go to Redgate. He tries to rate that a little bit later. He does, but John Kent closes the door in the nick of time. John Kent is not going to be denied a win here at Donington, or so it would appear. He leads as they come onto the top of the Craner curves. Hales is in second place, and this now the scrap to watch for third. Chris Hodgetts having to make his car oh so wide to keep Ian Flux at bay. Ian Flux, who still wants to be in touring cars for 1995, has done very well indeed this year in TVR Tuscan racing. And Chris Hodgetts now trying to speed up and pull away from Flux. He's succeeding in doing so, and latching onto the tail of Mark Hales now. Hales in second place, John Kent in the lead. They swing their way out of the right-hander of McLean, out towards Coppice. Hodgetts dives for the middle of the road, preventing Fluxy from finding a way past him. Out of Coppice, in comes the power. They accelerate off now, down under the bridge towards the S's. Now, who's going with a brave late breaker here? Mark Hales has a look on the outside line. John Kent hugs the inside line and maintains that lead. Hales, though, diving up on the outside. They swing through the left and right-handed elements of the S's. Third and fourth go through. Still with Chris Hodgetts there just ahead of Ian Flux. Now they come down to the hairpin. That's Mark Hales up alongside. Hales trying to go the long way around, but it's not going to work as Flux does the same to Hodgetts. Mark Hales couldn't get much closer to the rear of John Kent's car without touching him. A tremendous battle this, and it's all good, clean fun. Hodgetts and Flux still third and fourth. Flux oh so frustrated in his efforts. He tries the outside line again. That isn't going to work, and it doesn't. In comes the power. The Tuscans accelerate out of Goddard's. Kent, Hales, Hodgetts and Flux, the top four. Now Ian Flux there in the green and yellow car trying to pick his line as they come down towards Redgate. He tries a wide approach. Wide in means tight out. Can he find a way through on the inside of Chris Hodgetts as they now head to the top of the Craner curves? He's not really being given a chance as we go on board with Martin Short diving up on the inside of Rodgett, and he's lost it. Off goes Martin Short. He's been slipping back down the field, and that is going to slip him even further back down the order. Short in trouble then. Chris Hodgetts, a former Tuscan champion, going through in third place. Their fourth is Ian Flux. John Kent in the lead, it seems, however, is now pulling away from Mark Hales. Maybe Hales is taking a little breather, giving his tyres and brakes some respite from all the action. Out now they come from McLean's look back. You can see still third and fourth are tied together. Chris Hodgetts only just ahead of Ian Flux. This is Coppice, right-hander. Under braking, Mark Hales closes the gap between himself and the race leader, John Kent. Martin Short's got off again. Look, he's locked up. It's lost it. He's facing the wrong way. Just about gets it back, facing in the right direction. Two more places lost. It's all gone horribly quiet for Martin Short. Fires it all up again. Another place lost. Martin Short sets off. He was so impressive at Silverstone. He's having a bad day here. Waves to the crowd to say, well, I gave you some entertainment and I'm still going. Hales diving through on the inside there to try and get the lead. He's on the inside of Kent. He hits the curve. He runs wide. Hodgetts comes up as well. Hodgetts going for second. He's through. Can he get the lead? No, he can't. And John Kent there fighting back. Hodgetts right up alongside John Kent as they now make their way towards Goddard's, but Mark Hales is through again, and Flux there on the outside of Chris Hodgetts is going for third. Hodgetts is not going to be denied third place though as they swing left through Goddard's. Back on the power, tyre smoke from John Kent's car as he slides his way up now, up across the line. Hales, Kent, Hodgetts and Flux, the top four, continuing this tremendous battle, and Hodgetts now looking for a way through to second place. He has a go. The door closed. Out of Redgate. heading now toward the top of the Craner curves. They drop downhill, the dauntingly fast Craner curves, and then the old hairpin at the bottom. Mark Hales then looks as though he's timed this to perfection. He's in the lead. He's been able to break away by a length or two from, in second place, John Kent. Third and fourth going through, Hodgetts and then Flux. Hales accelerates up. Look, flames! Hales has caught fast. Southwick has got it a very large way indeed. Mark Hales goes off. Flux spins on his oil. Kent slows. Hodgetts goes through into the lead. Mark Hales goes off. He smacks his way into the tyres. Ian Flux spins on his oil. Chris Hodgetts leads. John Kent goes down into second place, and Mark Hales there, having had a crankshaft blow, puts oil down. He spins on his own oil. He goes off, smashes his way into the tyres. He's out of the race, and now you can see it in replay from Chris Hodgetts' car. Hales changes up. The engine launches itself. You can see all the oil and the flames coming out of the bottom of it. John Kent slows to avoid. Hodgetts dives through into the lead, and Mark Hales cannons off into the barriers. All that drama now means that this man, Colin Blow, the Hinckley Garage owner, double winner this year, is third. He's a very distant third, it must be said. John Kent here goes on the inside of Chris Hodgetts. They make contact. Kent gets half sideways, has to try and sort himself out again. So Chris Hodgetts is going to win. He's on the last lap. He's on his way now up towards Goddard's. A welcome return to the TVR Tuscan Challenge for Chris Hodgetts. The former double British Touring Car Champion is going to win. He will win from John Kent in second place. The flag is out, and Chris Hodgetts wins here at Donington. John Kent comes home just under a second and a half behind, with Colin Blow taking third, Andy Wallace fourth, Nick Cresswell and Ian Flux, who took fastest lap, completing the top six. What a tremendous race from the Tuscans. Mark Hales, despite the inferno, is crowned as champion with Colin Blow second, John Kent third ahead of Flux, Wayne and Chris Maris.